Hello, everybody. Welcome to Phonogenics 101, or should I say Phonogenics 82? Because we are now into the 1980s with Joni Mitchell. Thank you to my Patreon subscribers for putting a little money in my bank account that pays for the Zoom and my next music video that I'm filming on Saturday. And thanks to my YouTube subscribers, we are one person away from hitting 300 subscribers. So my podcast has outrun my music channel, making my music career a failure in yet another way. No, I'm just kidding. We're having fun. So we are here in the 1980s with Joni Mitchell's Wild Things Run Fast album. I'm kind of sad the 70s are over. It was, here we are. So we're going to feather our hair. We're going to frost our hair. Jahida even cut her bangs for the occasion. All right, so let's go around the panel and everyone say a little bit about themselves and their introduction to Wild Things Run Fast. I'll start with my upper left-hand corner, Paz. Oh, you're on mute, I think.
I'm muted? How's this?
There you go.
Oh, yeah, I got to talk into the microphone, I guess. Well, this is definitely one of my favorite albums. When I guess she got together with Larry around the same time that Fred and I got together, and so this was one of the ones that we really enjoyed together, and we've performed a lot of these songs together, and it was in heavy rotation when we'd be riding around in the car or whatever. But I find a lot of the songs, really joyful and, underneath the street light. And, it's just such an up record for me. Chinese Cafe is probably my fave on the album. And then Love is probably second, or maybe vice versa. I go back and forth. But love this record.
Cool. All right, next we have Jim.
Hello from Central Ohio. Yeah, Chinese Cafe is my favorite. Yeah, we'll get into it later. I think they misspelled Carol's first name on here. That's it from me.
All right, next we have Chris.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from just north of New York. And I guess I had just started when this album came out. I had just started working in Manhattan for an advertising agency, and I then started. That was the beginning of what turned into a 35-year career in advertising. I did, fall in love with Unchained Melody and linked with Chinese Cafe, and it was one of the two songs that my ex-wife and I danced to at our wedding. And I agree with what Paz says. I think the album is very up. Had a big rock and roll, the drum sound and everything, was, huge. And it seemed like a quantum leap from, as wonderful as Henry Louis' work was for her all through the 70s, and supporting somehow the sonic sheen on this record really seemed very, very different. I loved all those same songs. I think Love is probably one of my very favorites. It's something that to this day, when I know nobody can hear me sing, because I don't really sing, I'll sing it a cappella, and I will, just enjoy listening to myself sort of praying it as I sing. It's lovely to be able to sort of feel that in melody.
All right, next we have Bob.
Hey, from Greenville, South Carolina, where I moved in 1981. And if you remember, for those of you who watched the last 4 hours of Mingus, I didn't buy Mingus until the late 80s. So I gave up on Joni, although I did buy Shadows and Light, and I really enjoyed Shadows and Light, mostly for the reinvented hissing stuff and the Hajira stuff. And I like the Mingus songs on there as well. But when this record came out in 82, there were three records that I listened to on a constant basis. Wild Things Run Fast, almost every day. Michael Jackson's Thriller, almost every day I would wake up to that record, and then I'd come home from work and put on Joni Mitchell just because it was, it's upbeat, it's positive, gets me in the mood to enjoy the evening. And then at night I go to bed to Willie Nelson's Stardust. So these three albums was like a holy trilogy of this period of time for me. And Wild Things, like with Michael, has a very, very special place in my heart. Of her 80s records, to me, it's far superior, to the rest of what she put out this decade. But we'll get into more of that later. Yeah, love this record. Love it, love it.
All right, next is Sue.
Yeah, so I was still living on Long Island. I grew up on Long Island. I'm now in Ithaca, New York, and I saw Joni in the Shadows and Light concert down in New York, and then when this album came out, I saw her at Westbury Music Fair, which was on Long Island with, her band. The what did they call them? Bob, what was the name?
Dog breath.
I thought it had something to do with cheese.
Dog cheese.
Dog cheese.
Dog cheese, yeah. So that band in Westbury, it was really great, and I love this album. There's a lot of different songs on this album, but I was listening to it this week, and the band is really great. I mean, the guitar playing and because on some of the cuts, it's like she's just singing and the band is doing all kinds of great things, But then later on, when I started transcribing her songs, the songs that I really, really loved were Moon at the Window and Man to Man. And also, Ladies Man too was really good. But what was the other one? I'm trying to think. I mean, I was always Be Cool. Be Cool. I really love that song too. I mean, I'm attracted to the guitar songs, but although I love Chinese Cafe too, it's just incredibly gorgeous and a great opener for that album. That bass line right before it starts is so pretty. So yeah, I mean, when I think of this album, I think of my times on Long Island, just listening to Joni, and I've been a Joni freak for so long, and going to those concerts were really easy in those days. You just buy a ticket and run, go to Nassau Coliseum and see all those great concerts. So, yeah.
All right, next is Mark.
Yeah, if I can get my video to work. I'm Mark Scott. I live just north of Seattle. Moved out to Seattle in 1978. At the time this record came out, I was in kind of an odd part of my life. I was in a relationship with someone that did not ultimately work out. I also was out of a job. There I go again. I keep disappearing. So it was a funny time in my life. Neither one of us, my partner at the time, neither one of us was working. And there'd been this long dry spell since Mingus, and I was just wondering what the hell she was going to do with her next album. And I liked it. I don't know that I can say it's my favorite Joni Mitchell record, but it's kind of grown on me as time has gone on. And I think there's really a mix. There is some really upbeat songs on this, but there are also some where she's still kind of weighing the ins and outs of life and love. But I don't know what more to say about it. Next person.
Jamie, you're next.
Hello, I'm Jamie, and I live in London. And I first got this album probably when I really started getting into Joni, which was after 1988, and I started getting everything of hers. And this album sort of was a bit lost in the 80s albums, because the first album that came out when I first became a big fan was Chalkmark in a Rainstorm. So this album kind of got lost in that kind of 80s things, and it's taken years for me to really appreciate the writing of it and the music of it, and the musicians on it as well, because they sort of for me they don't really come to the fore as much as they do on other albums. But yeah, similar to a lot of people's Chinese Cafe, Moon at the Window, Love, the slightly slower ones are my favorites on this album. But yeah, she has a lot of fun on this one.
All right. And last but not least, from the Girl Den.
She-Shed.
The Girl Den. The She Shack. Jahida. The She Shed.
So, yes, I'm in my she shed. And I'm in Colorado. I happen to be involved heavily with with the guy who is responsible for the JMDL, Les Irvin, who is unfortunately not here today. But I have to admit, I'm the last person to have found Wild Things Run Fast on this. I was born, which is, a change, but I probably listened to it for the first time in the 2000s.
And she's gone.
Uh-oh.
Take two.
So say what you will, about Joni, but I think she wants to be popular. She wants to sell records, and she wants to be talked about. And of course, Mingus, as they predicted, did not do her career very well. Even though Shadows and Light tour was successful, it was mostly successful because she was Joni Mitchell and she had a hell of a band. So she was determined to come back with a vengeance and try to re-win some commercial gain. And Wild Things hit number 25 on the Billboard 200. So it did sell some copies. She promoted it heavily. It had, she issued Underneath the Streetlight as a promo. Chinese Cafe and Ladies Man was a single. You're So Square in Love was a single. She did a 4-song promo, which was You're So Square, Streetlight, Wild Things Run Fast, Man to Man. And of course, as we all know, she followed the album up with a world tour in '83 and a United States tour that was, I think, her biggest tour ever. I mean, she played all over the world, starting in Japan, and then coming back to Europe, all the way through Europe, all the towns in Europe, played everywhere in the USA. So she wanted this record to be a hit. She wanted to get back into the mainstream.
All right. Jahida, do you want to pick up the thought where you left off?
My apologies. My computer is deciding to be a complete asshole tonight. So never mind. Hold on. Sorry.
Brandy's messing with you.
Is that your ringtone?
Good freaking Lord. Okay.
We're just going to have fun with this. We're going to have fun. No stress.
So what I was saying was that basically it was the 2000s, probably the first time I heard this album, and I really loved it. I mean, I have to admit, some of her 80s stuff is just too 80s for me. You know what I mean? Like it's just got shades of like, kind of cheese. So, but this album, and I don't know if it's because it was like the beginning of her love with Larry Klein. So, it was like Joni in Love kind of thing. And it is so upbeat. And I have grown to really love this album. I think I liked it at first, but I kind of didn't really give it that much thought. And then as, ironically, I think I started listening to it a hell of a lot more when I was falling in love with Les. And so, so this one has a special place in my heart, because anytime I ever hear Solid Love, I think, less. So yeah, so I love this one a lot.
All right. Well, Dave Blackburn's going to be joining us. I just sent him the link, but I will say my thoughts on the album. I am Jeremy Gloff, your host from Tampa, Florida. And it seems like this will be an unpopular opinion, but this is probably in my top 3 least favorite Joni Mitchell albums. I just felt like the sound kind of sounded like the band reminded me of like David Letterman's house band. Like just like that 80s, like there are all these albums from these 70s ladies trying to go 80s. Like I have them here. I feel like Carly Simon's Come Upstairs was her trying to be the 80s. We had Linda Ronstadt had her Mad Love album, which was like her going into the 80s with the new wave. And then I feel Joni had her Wild Things Run Fast. So maybe it's also because my whole love life has been a failure my whole life. So I've never been able to partake in the glee of Solid Love. But, you know, I'm here for this podcast to hear everyone's opinions. And Dave, how do you feel about Get Closer was another 80. Yep, those 80s albums.
You know, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm more of a listener tonight because I don't know this album very well. I've tried to listen to it. I've tried on many occasions to like it. And every time I'm kind of repelled by it. So rather than be a downer, I'm just going to say, I must be wrong.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one because I was just the only one saying like, I feel like it's like slick David Letterman's house band music.
Well, I don't mind slickness. I mean, I'm a studio musician. I strive for that, but
sure.
But I found that the lyrics were kind of vapid with some exceptions. Obviously, Chinese Cafe is a great song, and Be Cool is. Well, I know you haven't got to that yet, but I think there's some decent material, but it starts out real gushy and with another artist, you'd go, well, that's just kind of stock pop music, but you don't expect it from her, especially coming right on the heels of Mingus. And, so she kind of went from her most oblique album to her most direct album, and it doesn't come across to my ear as authentic, even though obviously she was happy. So, but, happiness isn't that interesting.
And I also need to add that I freaking love Dog Eat Dog and Chalkmark. So Chalkmark might be in my top 3 favorite Joni albums of all time, which everyone's going to be like, oh, are you serious? But I love it. So that's the thing about music is there's no right or wrong. And I'm excited to, share the moments.
I gotta say, Dave, that was the most English thing you've ever said.
What did I say?
About happiness not being interesting.
Well, it doesn't make
so British.
It doesn't make for very good art, I should have said.
So it might be the best facelift, but that doesn't make it interesting.
Well, okay, Sting. I saw a thing with Sting recently, and he said, if your song is I love you and you love me, that's not interesting. But if the song is I love her and she loves him, that's more interesting. You've got tension, but there's no tension when it's just, yes, I do. I love ya.
Oh, I'm thinking of like mirthful, happy songs. And, I can do Madonna Cherish all day long. Like to me, that is happiness. Not Wild Things Run Fast. Okay, Bob.
Just to dovetail on what Dave says, he mentioned Sting, and of course this album, and then Dog Eat Dog even more so. In '81, after her tour, Shadows and Light tour, she took a 6-week trip to the Caribbean, immersed herself in the music of Steely Dan and the Police.
Oh, right.
And she loved the Police, right? She loved the Police. And if you did not know that, tomorrow, listen to Wild Things Run Fast with an ear for the Police, right? I mean, you have some of the light reggae stuff. The Do Da Da was one of her favorite songs of all time. she would try to redo that with Shiny Toys. We'll get there. But anyway, the Police and Steely Dan's Gaucho was very much influenced this record.
All right. Pause.
So were you in Larry's carry-on bag, or how did you get that information? That's pretty. I've never even heard that. That's pretty amazing.
That was on JoniMitchell.com, actually. That's all credit to Les.
I didn't see that article. Wow.
Yeah, I read that one somewhere. Jahida?
Actually, I remember Les telling me there was a gentleman who had contacted him. And it was right before, I believe, she ended up getting together with Larry. And it was after Don Elias. And she met him in the Caribbean. She met him. And they shared like a couple of, weeks or something like that together. And so I imagine it's probably around that time and stuff like that. But yeah, she was just he didn't know who she was. Oh. And she was kind of under the radar, like going, when she was in the Caribbean, she was like not saying who she was. And she was kind of trying to be incognito, I guess, to get it away for a while. So, but yeah, I wish Les was here to tell you all about it.
We'll go back to that one because I want to hear the full deal.
Is Les allowed in the she shed?
Oh yeah. He helped build it.
You can build it, but you cannot enter.
Oh no. He can totally come in here. It's just like I said, unfortunately, he's just in New Mexico building his cabin. So he's doing good.
All right, so before we go into the music, let's talk about the album cover. I have this on CD. I have the gold CD from the 90s, and then of course my songbook.
I got my gold CD too. I have the album and I have the songbook.
He does look pretty happy there, though. You got to admit it.
He does. Oh man, and the tour book, which is fun too.
Look at this picture of her chilling with her big painting. And then, of course, the video from the tour got released as Refuge of the Roads on VHS, correct? All right, Sue, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I want to talk about the paintings because I was an art student in the late 70s, early 80s, and I bought this book. It's about horses.
Oh.
And then when Joni's album came out, I was like, holy shit, that's those horses. And
wow,
I mean,
that's crazy.
You can tell if you look at the book, I guess you can see it's kind of
that is the horses.
It is.
Yeah, those are the horses.
Absolutely.
And there's another picture here that is exactly the painting that she did.
Down to the splash, you can see it.
Here is like they're like kissing.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, it's not even conjecture. I mean, it's definitely the book, and she just did a beautiful job painting those horses. I mean, she's really an incredible artist.
Yeah.
And I really loved her self-portrait too. It was just, I don't know what it is with her and TVs. She really likes to have TVs in her paintings for some reason. There's something about doing the picture in the TV and having something else going on outside that's kind of interesting to her. So,
what about kicking the shoes off on the back?
Really?
So isn't the myth that she was in a pinball arcade and Larry Klein challenged her to a game of pinball and that's where it all started?
Sounds right.
Galaga, was that her game? Or how do you pronounce it? All right. And any other thoughts on the album cover? Those who experienced this album, do you remember seeing the cover for the first time and going to the record store and thinking this isn't Mingus anymore?
Sure.
I mean, for me, the album cover is where the painting is. She's gone from the kind of expressionist abstract of the Mingus cover to very figurative. So you kind of get the feeling like, okay, we're back in reality for me, or we're back in a kind of like recognizable landscape. There's a kisser on the cover, which the record company always want. because Mingus had no photo, had no picture of her, and all the paintings on the inside. My parents had a photograph or a painting of a photograph of the horses of the Camargue in their bedroom. So that image always is a kind of like, always reminds me of their bedroom. And I'd seen some of the paintings in London when they came in 1990.
90.
For,
of a decade. Yeah.
for the exhibition, and it was just wonderful to see them, to see the scale of them, because
They're large. Yeah.
Yeah.
The cover photo is
like,
cover painting is large.
They're like 8 feet wide or 8 feet. Yeah. She's almost, I don't know if she is life
Almost
size.
life size. Yeah.
Yeah. But that thing about the TV in her paintings, it's like another way to get the image across really quickly. Like, here's an image within an image, and then we've got a kind of like a second story being told. So
she was kind of working a lot painting wise in that fractile collage-y kind of way, where canvases were cut into oblique shapes. The Road to Uncle Lyle's, kind of things like that. And there's a bunch of that in the there's a collage of those in the tour book too. Yeah. And in the songbook.
And then there's one called The Spill, which is a New York landscape, and it goes up into the moon, which then turns into Larry Klein mopping up a spill on her California kitchen.
Wow.
Beautiful photograph, beautiful. But yeah, I love the paintings for that reason, because she kind of goes into, one image bleeding into another, then before she goes in full 80s Jackson Pollock.
Wasn't she working or living at some point during the 80s, or was that later in the 90s? She was living in New York with an artist.
With Nathan Slate Joseph.
Sharing the studio? Was that in the 80s?
With Nathan Slate Joseph, who there's videos of her and him kind of in his studio, I guess in the 90s, but it was in the 80s, and I think that's who Good Friends is written about, but we'll go into that in the next album. It's I wasn't sure if she was living there at the time, but maybe she did, I don't know. But yeah, there's certainly a kind of crossover.
All right, any thoughts on the album cover before we start going into the track by track? Jahida?
Well, one of the things I was looking at was like the book liner notes, and they also have one of her favorite artists is in there, and I can only tell one. I can't really tell who the other one is, but it's Matisse, right?
Yep,
with La Danse.
Yeah. And I just remember her that was, she has mentioned before that was one of her favorite paintings, right? So okay, I'm not, or one of her favorite artists. I mean, I'm not like making it up, right?
No, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
This font, is this the only, she's used this in other places. This is actually her signature, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
I do like things that are stylized. So I like when the first thing that comes to my head is like Dolly Parton uses the same font for her name on all album covers. So I like when artists kind of repeat a font. So that's just me being a music collector.
She lived in that Garamond thing all the way up till Shine. I mean, she stayed with Garamond, through Turbulent Indigo and what's the other one that followed it?
Taming the Tiger?
Taming the Tiger.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, all the Robbie Cavallina works seem to have gone back to that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're about to dive into the album, and I think no matter how you feel about this album, I think everyone here probably agrees that Chinese Cafe is just a wonderful song. And my little story that I'll tell now, Paz, you'll be performing this, correct?
Yes.
All right. Before we go into the performance, I remember I was maybe a junior or sophomore in high school, and I was putting up my Christmas tree in my bedroom, and I was gay, but didn't tell it. I didn't realize it yet, and I was heartbroken about this guy, even though I thought it was straight. And I was just putting up my Christmas tree, and my family was fighting downstairs, but I just had this moment of peace, and I just remember listening to Chinese Cafe on my record player with the Christmas lights blinking. And that's like one of those things I remember from high school. You know, chaotic moments in life where like you have the record on and Joni Mitchell just gives you a moment of peace. So I always think of Chinese Cafe with Christmas lights twinkling off the vinyl on the record player. So that's my little story. All right, Paz, do you want to play the song and then we'll discuss it after your performance?
Sure.
All right, let me spotlight you and then put myself on mute.
Caught in the middle, we're middle class, we're middle-aged, we were wild in the old days, birth of rock and roll days, and your kids are coming up straight. My child's a stranger, I bore her, but I could not raise her. Nothing lasts for long. Nothing lasts for long. Nothing lasts for long. Down at the Chinese Cafe, we'd be dreaming on our dimes. We'd be playing, oh, my love, my darling, one more time. Uranium money is booming in the old hometown now. They're putting up sleek concrete and tearing the old landmarks down, paving over brave little parks, ripping off Indian lands again. How long, how long? Short-sighted businessmen, no, nothing lasts for long. Nothing lasts for long. Nothing lasts for long. Down at the Chinese Cafe, we'd be dreaming on our dimes. We'd be playing, you give your love so sweetly. One more time. Christmas is sparkling out on Carol's lawn. This girl of my childhood games as kids nearly grown and gone, grown so fast, like the turn of a page. We look like our mothers did now when we were those kids' age. Nothing lasts for long. Nothing lasts for long. Nothing lasts for long. Down at the Chinese Cafe, we'd be dreaming on our dimes. We'd be playing, oh, my love, my darling. I've hungered for your touch a long time. Time goes by so slowly, and time can do so much. Are you still mine? I need your love. I need your love. Godspeed your love to me. Time go? Where does the time go? I wonder where the time goes. Where does the time go?
Beautiful, Paz.
Favorite
Fantastic, Mike. Really.
I really
Look
love
at you got me in tears over here. Oh, that was so beautiful.
That bad.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, I do too. It's Fred and I sing it a lot together. You know, she doesn't sing as much as she used to. She's retired from the stage, as it were. But every once in a while, when she passes that, third drink mark or something, and we got a crowd in the house, and I start playing that, she'll come and sing, and it's a special time. We got invited to a party. It was in Lucy Burdett's house on Royal Street in New Orleans, and I forgot to say earlier that I'm in New Orleans, actually west of the city, but we were at Lucy's house, and Joni was in town, and we had been invited to have dinner with her at Maximo's restaurant in the French Quarter, and we were sitting at the table when she arrived, and it was an amazing feeling. Here I'm saying that I'm going to have dinner with Joni Mitchell, and then these other people showed up that were friends of hers, and there was two of them, and so nobody would stand up and give up their seats. And seeing how we had gotten invited to this thing sort of at the last minute, I stood up and said, hey, you can have our seats. We'll go sit at another table, and we'll catch up with you later. And so we went to the back room of Maximo's restaurant, and it's where the kitchen was. And so they sat us down at a table, and we were sitting right next to Warren Haynes and his wife and some friends. And so it was a whole nother party in the back. And so we had a lovely time. But then we got to go to Lucy's house afterwards, and she was supposed to come over. And this must have been around the time that she was writing Harlem and Havana, because she was with a woman that used to work with her called Gloria, and they went out on Bourbon Street to go listen to the hawker guys that say, come on inside, showtime, free beer, titties and beer, whatever they say out there. So she came to the door of the apartment, and then announced that she was going to do that, and then she never came back to the party. So we didn't get to party with her that time. But Lucy did introduce me to her another time. That I think I told that story to you guys already. But special tune. I'll say more about it later. There's so many images. I had a relationship with a lady that told me that I had fathered a little girl with her, but as it turns out, it was a lie, and it didn't happen. But for many years, I thought that this young lady Grace was my daughter, and so that whole passage of that I couldn't raise her was a powerful thing in my life at that time. So, and there's a lot of them. You know, when I think about Carol, you know, I have so many Carols in my life that I've known for 50 plus years. My friend Dan and I have been playing guitar since we were, you know, teenagers, you know, 11, 12 years old, and playing together. And so, yeah, we very often get together and have a drink and you know, just think back, you know, to all these things that we've been through. And once again, that song kind of brings that out, you know.
Yeah, I will say that for rumination on middle age, that's one of the best, if not the best song. Like it really, I can't even talk. It just really hit me tonight. Yeah. All right.
Well, to bring some levity,
Yeah.
always hearing Paz talk about like just the amazing things that happen in his life and all the people he meets, ironically makes me think of Kanye West because there was Dave Chappelle did this like interview where he said, you know, the first time he met Kanye, he was just like, so, you know, what's up? And he's like, oh yeah, I'm Kanye. My life is dope and I do dope shit. And I'm like, that is Paz. His life is dope and he does dope shit.
Yeah, you're right, baby.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to, and you know, I just know so many people, and I guess my personality lends itself to people feeling like they can just, you know, come up and start talking to me. You know, I guess I have a welcoming face or whatever. So Warren Haynes and I have been friends since I invited him to be on our TV show back when he was going to play a festival here, and they weren't, Government Mule wasn't a big band yet. And so but I called his management company. I did the same thing to Jonathan Brooke. I called her management, or actually I called her record label and got her to come on my show as well. And so, you know, those types of opportunities have always been, and stuff that I'm not afraid to call somebody up and say, hey, you know, come play with me.
I love what John Guerin does on this song, and Joni gives him the room to just put those flourishes in at the end of what is it? The end of a verse, I guess. There's a little pregnant pause. Oh, sorry, pause. There's a pregnant pause over and over again, reoccurring in the song, and Guerin just, I play air drums every time.
Bob, I see your hand is up.
So yeah, it was funny. The first time I heard this song, of course, I didn't hear Blue until later in the decade of the 80s. So I didn't know Little Green. So when she said, my child a stranger, I bore her, but I did not raise her, my first thought was, okay, that's a really good lyric. I mean, I know Joni didn't have any kids. What she's saying is she's imagining that she has a daughter that she bores, like, you know, like I'm boring to her. You know, I couldn't raise her because I was just so boring, you know. And then listening to it later, nothing lasts for long, nothing lasts for long. She might even be referring to her career in the 70s that is now tanked, you know. And of course, she's referring to so many things, you know, Indian land and whatnot. But nothing lasts for long. I think some of that's almost semi-autobiographical in terms of that. Well, I was really popular and really super famous, but that didn't last for long.
Hi, Chris.
Oh, thank you. I agree that that lyric also struck me about, you know, having a child and not being able to raise her, and comparing it to Little Green. And I thought, is this a coincidence or is this just a theme she likes to write? Because I didn't really, I guess I refused to acknowledge the possibility that she might have actually given birth to a child and opted not to raise that. Raise her. It just didn't. It didn't seem that was in Joni Mitchell's character. She hid her struggle so well that I couldn't make that direct connection. Though the one thing that did strike me about this song, though, was I thought it was a wonderful return to her mostly writing from the first person and sort of getting the sense of somebody's, of her own history and her own, life in growing up in Canada. And I like that because it reminded me a bit of, of In France I Kissed on Main Street. So I thought it was more of that, continued narrative. But when she goes into the cover song, what's different about this cover versus all of the other covers she had done, like Twisted or Centerpiece, or any of the other things that she had sort of reached into, is she's using the song not just to perform it, but she's enlisting it in her own narrative. So it becomes her voice. She's singing, I need your love, I need your love, in a way that she's interpreting it for herself, which I don't think she does again until Both Sides Now, when she attacks all of the other standards in that sort of same voice. So for me, the first play of this song, when she hits that line, I need your love, God speed your love to me, I gasped. It really hit me so hard. I couldn't, out of nowhere, I just knew that there was something special about that moment on this record. And for me, that one moment forgave a lot of sins going forward in this album for the rest of it. So that's my take on this particular song. Paz, no matter where you get the ability, wherever you're finding the resources within what you have within you to sing it the way you did, it was beautiful. Thank you so much for your interpretation.
Wow, thank you so much. That means a lot. It does come from a very deep place, and I haven't, I'm not an accomplished piano player. I just block chords. I can't play I wish I could play like you play.
It was beautifully
or Dave,
expressed. Val,
the way
please.
that Dave plays guitar is amazing. I learned to accompany myself to be able to sing the songs that I like to sing, and that means a lot. Thank you very much.
We have Jahida, then Bob.
Just very, not to wait too long, but it's funny how nothing lasts for long, to coin a phrase, but basically this last month I have been teaching my students about why Native Americans and indigenous people have been called Indians, right? And it was because Columbus thought he was in India because he's dumb. So but hearing it, and because Joni mentions that a number of times, I think, in her songs about Indians, and when she talks about when she was younger playing cowboys and Indians and things like that, and she wanted to be Roy Rogers, not Dale Evans, and kind of things. But it's funny how I think if the first time I heard this album, I wouldn't have given it a second thought, because that's what I was taught, when I was growing up. And it's just interesting that now I kind of bristle when I hear that, ripping off Indian land again, or Injun, actually, it's almost like she's saying Injun, which is even worse. And then I told my students this week, I said, if there's one thing that you come across from this lesson, it's that Native Americans and indigenous people are not Indians, unless they're from India. And so I wonder personally myself too, because of the fact that Joni does feel, I think it's pretty apparent she has a connection to Native American spirituality and or just indigenous spirituality, And she did grow up in a desolate area where there probably were, natives around her. And so, and I believe, wasn't the owner of the fruit shop or the guy who gave her fruit during when she was with
Yes, yeah, Chief Redbird.
Thank you. Yes. So I wonder now what she thinks if she goes back and says, just like Art Nouveau, right? Like, it was a different time. I wasn't trying to, say it in a derogatory way or defamatory way, things like that. Or if she also herself kind of is kind of not embarrassed, because why would you be embarrassed? That's the way that people were saying it, but just kind of regretful. You know what I mean? Just the same way, like, I know myself growing up, hello, the 90s, the R word was like an insult, and now I think back and I'm like, good Lord, how horrid, right? And I would never. So I wonder if she has that moment, if she has those moments, or if she just says, hey, I'm an artist, this was what it was at the time, and she kind of just, says, it gives herself that kind of grace, you know what I mean? So yeah, just my thoughts. Otherwise, I do believe this song is just an absolute, like, amazing, not just the idea of people growing old, right? But just how things are changing and how she feels like things that she has known she can't recognize anymore, in addition to herself.
Someone put a meme on Instagram that 1980 to now is like 1938 to 1980. Doesn't that hurt your heart? I think we have Bob, then Sue, then Paz.
So yeah, just real quick, of course, Unchained Melody is the big song referenced here, but the little one is Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, written by Carole King and Jerry Goff, in which, when she says, they'll be playing You Give Your Love So Sweetly, which is one of her favorite songs, and she and Cameron Crowe talk about it in the new archived liner notes. Don't mean to rub that in, but she references that in the song.
I'm sticking my tongue out at you, Bob.
Sorry, I bought from Amazon. My bad.
I saved $5 by going with importcds.com.
Yeah.
Sue, you're next.
Okay, I wanted to talk about Unchained Melody too, because that's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. I remember when I was a teenager, we would go to bars, any kind of old dive bar in the tri-state area of New York City would have Unchained Melody on the jukebox. And I would always play it because it's just like the Righteous Brothers, were amazing. They had this incredible voices. And when I first heard that song, it's almost like this whole rush of memory came back to me, just hearing that song again, it was, songs do that to you, you can be put back in a certain time or place and remember, and you can even smell the beer, hanging out in those old divey bars was like really fun when I was younger, but yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that it just fits the song so beautifully. And
So to keep the twisted universes going, someone needs to write a song today where the chorus ends with Chinese Cafe.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Because this song reminds us of that time, like Unchained Melody.
Yeah. That's a really good idea.
We have a lot of songwriters here. All right, Jahida, were you next? Or Paz? Paz, you're next.
Yeah. You never close your eyes. Yeah, I wanted to expand a little bit on what Jahida was saying about, about the Indian thing and going back to Art Nouveau, and I was the only black man in the party. All those references to me, knowing what kind of person Joni is, I really don't feel like that came from a dark place. I think it was more of empathy or a deeper understanding or appreciation for all of those issues. And when you consider, what's going on in the media today, it even personifies it more for me. I mean, it really feels like, she was shining the light on this stuff, and really, I've had several conversations about my conversation with y'all regarding Don Juan's Restless Daughter, and the whole album cover, and if she redoes it again, if she puts it out again, if she would change the cover. And I really hope she wouldn't, because I just feel like it's art, and you can't really you shouldn't really mess with that, in my opinion. So
I kind of feel like she was using the tools that were available at the time, in a way. Jim.
Let's see. Indian. I'm pretty sure that she just couldn't find room for all three syllables. It sounds to me like she just rushes engine together, and it doesn't sound to me like engine at all. Sometimes it's hard to pick out those. Sometimes it's hard to parse that out.
Did I say Indian? I think I did.
think Jahida was saying that it sounded like maybe she was saying engine.
Engine.
Which was kind of culturally insensitive in the 21st century, but I don't think she actually crossed that line. Just my opinion. She's been wrong on other things, but there's some great lines in here. I wrote down "Christmas is sparklin'." Now, that one I didn't notice when she says it, but that one that's really cool. Short-sighted businessmen. That scans very well, and it's kind of it's an artful turn of a phrase, and it's not hard to digest like some of the other slights that we're going to hear on Doggy Dog. That's me.
I feel like this was a different kind of a song for Joni, because of course, I mean, she's done pop music before, but this is a very traditional structure compared to the Mingus stuff. But I feel like this kind of began the trajectory that would continue with like Coming from the Cold. What do you guys feel? What's the lineage that led to this song in Joni Mitchell land? I feel like there's a lot of new things on this album for her songwriting wise. Pause.
Yeah, I think this for me. This comes from a place like the line about down at the Chinese cafe, we'd be dreaming on our dimes. I mean, obviously feeding the jukebox and doing that whole thing. It evokes that whole era for me that, I can remember going with my parents to those drive-in, there was, what do they call those places? Well, it's like the bar and grill that we used
Dives.
to do. Yeah, they had these little tiny jukebox things in the booth that you could play there. And of course, anywhere we went, that's immediately what I would do is do that. So
The diners, would have them.
Yeah, the diners and all that kind of place, man. Wonderful memories.
It's so interesting because this song is one of the deepest songs in her catalog, I feel like, on one of the least deep albums of her career. Just my opinion. Okay, we have Dave and then Mark.
Do we know when she actually wrote this tune? Because it feels like it could have been quite an old tune that she didn't really have a place for until this album. I don't know. Does it strike anybody else that way? That it feels like it. I mean, as Chris mentioned, in France, They Kiss on Main Street, she was mulling similar concepts about being a teenager and dancing to these records, and now, of course, she's older and she's thinking about we're middle class, we're middle aged, but she's still harking back to that same those still memories. So I'm just wondering whether she might have written this in the 70s.
Dave, I thought the same thing. I thought like she wasn't thinking about these things after she met Larry.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, the rest of the album is all, Ain't Life Grand? And so it almost doesn't fit, except that it's such a good song that I can see why she put it first. I'm just wondering whether perhaps this is a holdover from, several years earlier.
The copyright on it is 82, but I don't know if
Okay.
that makes a difference or not. But
Well, that doesn't mean she wrote it then, but you know, when you file for your copyright is when you get that date stamp.
Right.
No.
This was kind of her last piano song for a long time, wasn't it?
Until Two Gray Rooms.
And even that music was written during this era, right?
Could have been. Yeah, that's an interesting point, Dave. That's yeah, it's likely.
Jim.
This song is all about, seems like it's all about looking back, and there haven't been many songs about looking back to now, up to now.
Well,
Right?
Song for Sharon, I think.
I think she heard the clock ticking. I think,
Yeah.
you know, she got married. She had a lot of sort of big decisions that she made in her life that she didn't think she would ever make again. And, you know, and frankly, again, I'll just bring up the photographs from the period. She has this grin on her face that seems so, what's the word? It's unfiltered completely. It's just, she'll smile as wide as she possibly can. And however the camera captures it, tough shit. It's, you know, toothy grin, have more teeth. I got more. You want more teeth? Here they are.
How old was Joni when she made this album?
So what? She was
39.
43 to 82.
43?
39 was
39.
She was almost 40.
Okay. So I've already passed my Wild Things era. Shit.
I'm way past.
I'm heading towards Night Ride Home territory. All right. Any other thoughts on Chinese Cafe?
Bob was mentioning about the Carole King reference, and we know that, of course, they were both label mates at A&M. But were they friends?
Well, I mean, Joni sang on the Tapestry version of "Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow."
But the song she's here, but the version she's hearing as she's thinking about writing this song is the girl group version, you know, back from
Shirelles.
the Shirelles. So,
Shirelles.
you know, that's the longevity of Carole King's genius. So, you know,
Yeah, really. Carole King was having hits when Joni hadn't written a song yet.
when she was a teenager, you know, I mean, or, you know, emerging from teenage, you know.
Was it Locomotion? What year was that? Like 1960 or something?
62, probably something like that.
Okay.
Little Eva.
God, was that Goffin King?
Yep.
Yes, it was.
So did Carole King do her turn of the 70s to 80s new wave pop album or no? I was never a Carole King fan.
She had kind of faded out. If you read Girls Like Us, it talks about all three of these artists: Carly Simon, Carole King, Joni Mitchell, and Carole King kind of went down a tunnel into some strange stuff.
Oh,
She had some money to spend.
she did some theater or something, or some animation or something like that. She went in a different direction.
Okay.
Yeah,
Read that
Idaho,
book.
Really,
Love
Rosie?
of Bad Marriages.
Right? Really, Rosie was during the 80s, right?
I think
Yeah,
so.
the soundtrack to the TV thing.
Okay.
I must say that putting out again this clue that she bore a child and gave her up for adoption is really must have been really tough, and maybe that's kind of a thing to kind of to say to Klein, maybe that you know, this is in my mind.
Okay.
Do you think he knew?
If we're getting into this is in my mind. You know, I don't know.
Do you think she told him?
I think people in her close circle knew. It was just a kind of secret, wasn't it?
Well, this is like what number hint? Because at this point, it's been quite a number, right?
I know, right? But
And I didn't pick up on any of them. Like when I found out in the late 90s, I'm like, oh, like stupid me.
Well, I mean, if you don't know, you don't know. You're not looking at those clues,
I
right?
didn't know.
Remember the
Yeah.
Blue discussion? I'm like, why is this weird song on Blue that's so personal? I just don't get it. Then you find out, you're like, oh, knife through my heart.
I know, really. You just don't think of somebody who's that famous being able to keep a secret like that.
no, exactly.
You know, for years like that. It was, it was just amazing.
But I guess we're in the days of pre-internet, pre-information, and you hid it from your mum, basically.
Yeah.
And no privacy.
Pre-exploitation. All right. Well, what a lovely discussion about Chinese Cafe. I feel like we can just wrap it up here and I'm okay with it. But we won't. All right. Well, Bob, who covered this song?
So this is the second most popular song on the record in terms of covers, 17 in all. The first one in 2000 from David Hay, that may or may not be his real name, Dressed to Kill in the UK, put out a really cheesy Joni tribute called Came Upon a Child of God. It's been recycled time and time again under different names. But it was interesting because this album had all the usual suspects and then Chinese Cafe was thrown in there. So that was really, really odd. It's also been done in Polish language. So that's an interesting side note. But yeah, 17 covers of Chinese Cafe.
All right. So we're moving on to track 2 of the album, which I feel I can picture is like a guy playing guitar with a big bulge in his pants. Wild Things Run Fast, the title track. Not one of my favorite Joni Mitchell songs, so I'm just going to let the panel take it over.
It's a racy story song.
You heard the heater cutting in and out. I have listened to it a lot of times because after Chinese Cafe, I'm too lazy to get up and change the album.
Well, the first line is, he came, she smiled.
Yeah.
So he might not have a boner because he came.
Eating from her hand at last. Wild Things Run Fast. Okay. Larry Klein has hit the proceed. Obviously, this is a song about her newfound romance. After songs like Sweet Sucker Dance on Mingus and some of the stuff on Don Juan's, it seems like maybe she was giving up on love a little bit. And what a sweet surprise that this mustached bass player comes along and finds her at the pinball machine. So this is the first song that, she's excited about this new man in her life. Is there anyone here that loves this song?
I love it a lot.
Okay, talk about it.
Yeah. I just, it's just a great tune. It's like I said, it's one the guitar riff, the way that it draws you in right there. And there's just once again, that I think it could be about Larry, indirectly, but then maybe not, because at the end she says, I thought you loved me, but obviously, they were together for how long? 10 years or so. It lasted
10 or 11, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was Turbulent Indigo when they started to fall apart, right after Turbulent Indigo, because they received the Grammy and he was their ex by then. But it's for me, it's a really up tune, and it's different than anything she'd ever done. Freda was in college at this time. We were very new. We were friends for 2 years before we were ever romantic together. And I was living in Honduras. I was introduced to her by a friend of mine who's passed away since. Actually, I'm not even going to talk about that because it'll make me cry. But he told me that he was going to introduce me to my wife, and I went, "Man, are you nuts? I mean, come on." So I went to his house for Christmas Eve for a party in Honduras Christmas Eve is really Christmas. That's the main day, unlike the USA where Christmas is Christmas Day. But so we met and we hit it off. I mean, it was, you know, I thought, oh, super girl. She's really pretty. And, you know, we made plans to get together and play some guitar and stuff. She used to play guitar really, really well. And so, yeah, we hit it off. And so when I moved back to the States after that, she was still in college. And this would have been 83, I think it was, that we saw this tour in Baton Rouge. And she got tickets like right in front of the soundboard and was really worried that I wasn't going to be happy with the tickets because they were so far back from the stage. You know, they were like, 80 feet back from the stage, right? The sweet spot, right where you should be. And it was that was one hell of a date. We had a good time after the show. I can just say that because that was our album. That a lot of those songs played by Mike Landau on guitar and stuff, I really, really enjoyed.
All right, Bob.
So this song, like a lot of the songs on this record, are very, very police influenced. Joni actually wanted the Police to be her backup band on this record. They were in the studio, so they couldn't do that. But the guitar riff, if you isolate the guitar riff, and maybe Dave can talk to that, it's very much an Andy Summers guitar riff, and lots of the music on this record sounds like the Police music, who she wanted to be on, on this record. And then of course you have the Trogs Wild Thing reference, where they say, "Wild Thing, I think I love you." In the end of the song, she says, "Wild Thing, I thought you loved me," which is, in my mind, I don't have this verified, but in my mind, it's a reference to the Trogs Wild Thing.
Let's not even talk about that echoey guitar, that last note after she says that, because that's something.
I remember being struck by the drum sound in this, that, it was punchier than anything, out there. I thought Vinnie Colaiuta, am I saying his name right? Colaiuta. I thought he really, was slamming those in a way that, that John Guerin never seemed to get John Guerin had a very, very, different sound,
Well, sure. Chris, this is post Phil Collins. Yeah. So everybody was going for compressed gated reverb, or gated compressed reverb on the drums, because you had to hold your head high in 1981, and there was no other drum sound anybody wanted that year.
Right. Well, and this is one of those tracks that has it. Not every track seems to completely embrace it on this record. Be Cool does not, Chinese Cafe does not, but when they really get the rock, the rock style assembled, it sounds a lot like this song. From the songs, that's probably the problem that I have with the album overall, is the songs that are in this particular genre kind of all sound a bit alike to me.
Well, I worked at Guitar Center that year. I just arrived in America in January of 81. I'm not sure when. Did this album come out in 82 or end of 81?
82.
October. It was probably made in 81. And so Guitar Center was selling all the latest, effects and things. And that was kind of the beginning of the digital age. And there were these effects processors for everything: reverbs, guitars, the Lexicon digital reverb had just arrived. The discovery in England of that, of how to get that really aggressive drum sound had happened in 79. And so all of these things were you had to kind of take advantage of them to be current, and it was even more so on the next album when the samplers were available. There weren't any samplers in 82, but once the samplers were available, then you had this instrument that could kind of be anything you want. And so Dog Eat Dog is full of that. But I played in a band in 1981, and we were all going for the same chorus guitar sounds and exaggerated reverbs and everything. It was just what you had to do to be an 80s act and not a fuddy-duddy 70s act. So at the time, it felt super fresh and exciting. It hasn't worn very well, just like maybe the wah-wah pedal or something, but it's of its time. And I relate to it because I was in it, but it sounds very dated to me too.
But Joni was willing to buy into the idea that production was going to add something to her record.
Yes, and I have to think that Larry Klein was maybe not pushing, but really encouraging her to completely rethink everything and get on the bandwagon.
Which probably was fun, very fun and exciting at the time. Jahida.
Later on, she does, sort of basically say, accuse Larry of sort of getting up in her stuff. But, that's her sort of like, he took over my session kind of thought, but she really allowed it to happen too. She invited as much, I think. She needs to take a little responsibility for that if she has misgivings for it.
All right, so we have Jahida, then Jamie.
Well, speaking of getting up in her stuff,
honey,
I think that these lyrics can be really sexy if you think about it. You know what I mean? She is not. I mean, Lord knows Joni doesn't shy away from anything, but in the dark you could see the trap she was laying in her sweet company. Like, it's just, I don't know, maybe I'm a perv. But
maybe
I read a lot of these lyrics and I'm just like, so
I do like the heater cutting in and out. I like that line a lot.
Well, and I think that's why at the end where she says, "I thought you loved me," I feel like there's actually a kind of a slight waning of a romance in this. In the beginning, it's hot and heavy, obviously, right? I mean, if you want to take it literal, he came, she smiled. You know what I mean? But then it was just like, about this woman who got this guy who was probably not easily tamed. You know what I mean? She got the wild thing. And so later on,
right?
Yeah, exactly. She was robbing the cradle.
Yeah.
She's talking about feeding a horse.
Well, I mean, but then, yeah, I guess. But then to me, I feel like later on, Winter Beat the Pines about, like, there's time passed. And then it's like that honeymoon period and him being like under her spell is just done, And so he's laying up at night listening to the heater cutting out. She's sleeping, she's happy. She tamed her wild thing. And then, you go later and it's winding from her tender grass. I mean, you can kind of almost picture like them hugging and he's just pulling away,
I'm triggered.
What a different place this song is than A Strange Boy. I mean, really, this is like a completely different understanding of a relationship. This is like all about instantaneous. What is instantaneous as opposed to reflective? This is a really different place for her point of view, her own, where she's writing from, I think.
All right,
Yeah,
Jamie. Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say that's just it. And then later on, when she says, "What makes you run, wild thing? I thought you loved me." I mean, I think that just kind of, I know it could. I mean, I guess it could also be a horse. I guess shades of Equus coming, but
no.
No, but I mean, I guess that's, you know, maybe it's me and my cliche kind of way of looking at things, you know, and also the fact that the majority of these songs do have to do with love, and she writes both, you know, she writes the death of a relationship so well, you know, and so poignantly that to me, every time I see something that I take that way, I kind of think, oh, that's what it is, you know? And although I'm sure she, like she has said multiple times, you know, she never really says what her songs are about because it is whatever it means to you kind of thing, which I love. But that's what it means to me, 100%.
Well, somebody mentioned the line, he heard the heater cutting in and out. And to me, that's him running hot and cold in his mind. You know, he's thinking, oh, well, this is nice, but oh, I don't want to be caught up in this. And the cold part wins out. In the night, it snowed.
I do like that the winter
powder white leading out to the road. So
the winter carried over from Chinese Cafe to this song. I did like that. How we have the Christmas lights and then the snow. Jamie,
did you discuss the line? I'm sorry to go back to Chinese Cafe, but about my child. I bore her, but I could not raise it.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, in depth.
Damn.
All right, Jamie, you've been patiently awaiting.
Well, I was just picking up on Dave's point about Larry Klein getting in her stuff. About, you know, we have one song with John Guerin, and then the crew changes. We have Vinny Colaiuta. Like, oh, okay, we can't have the ex-boyfriend in the band anymore. And then she sings Man to Man with the ex-boyfriend in the band. So it's kind of like, oh, what's going on here? You know, it feels like there's some sort of like interplay going on, which is kind of cute. Probably completely wrong, but I mean, and going back into While Things Run Fast, you know, I do like Jahida, and I totally agree with Jahida's reading that it is. I mean, it's all sexual. You know, it's there, you know, and if we're, you know, if we're fans of the 1976 fast tracks on the Powder White, it's like, okay, maybe not, but you know, because she's.
Funny that you say that, because I was like, maybe it has to do with, right, like she did do a lot of cocaine. I mean, she didn't even lie about it, you know, but because she specifically says cocaine later, I'm like, maybe she literally just means snow. Like at this time, you know, who knows?
But also, she's beyond that. You know, she's had her kind of like rebirthing with Chogyam Trungpa. You know, so it's kind of like beyond. She's beyond. It's after that period, so it's like maybe it's not. Maybe it's just snow. You know?
Joni, if you're watching, is it snow or snow?
Well, she's past the cocaine, but maybe he is. I mean, she talks about in Ladies Man, couldn't you just love me like you love cocaine?
That's true.
So,
that's true.
wasn't she really interested in the music of the Police at this time?
Yeah,
That's right. The Police are all over this record.
You happen to.
How much of that is Klein, and how much of that is?
It's Joni, apparently.
And other types of music.
Joni.
I think that having Vinny Colaiuta and Mike Landau was probably Klein, because those guys were. I mean, Mike Landau was kind of the Larry Carlton of what Larry Carlton was to studio sessions in the 70s. Mike Landau was in the 80s, and he had kind of created these really lush. Stereo guitar sounds that everybody wanted. James Taylor wanted him on his records, and you know, everybody was using him. And Vinny Colaiuta had just come out of Frank Zappa's band, and he was this guy that could play anything. Obviously, if you've been in Zappa's band, you can. And so I bet Klein said, we've got to get the hottest guys to do on our, you know, this this new record. And she may have wanted the police, but I bet she settled for having the heavyweight studio guys that year.
Yeah, they're the hot LA crew. Lukather was another one, right?
Yes, he was. As Nathan East, I mean, they're still going. And Mike Landau, you can go hear him on the Baked Potato, even now. But they were very young guys, but they were just kind of phenomenal players that could play perfectly in the studio. And maybe that's what Jeremy was talking about earlier. They're a bit too good. I mean, there's so much slickness that it maybe feels strange to hear a Joni record like that.
Right.
Because,
Well, here's the question. What do you think this album would have been like if she had, in fact, gotten the police to be her backing band?
much better.
Better. Did I say that?
Might be a little biased, Jeremy, but
But what she got is still better than if Toto had been her backing band.
oh, good Lord. I mean, I love Rosanna like, most people, but come on.
Well, I mean, just if you're going to pick an 80s, super band to, assemble.
Well, Toto backed up Boz Scaggs on Silk Degrees, and he did pretty well with that record.
Okay.
Stuart Copeland would have been awesome playing with her.
But that's what I mean. Like, do you think the same way, like what Chris was saying and everything, like that Larry kind of got all up in her stuff? Like, do you think she would have kind of let the police dictate a lot of that backing music and styles and things? Or do you think she would have had a lot more control and things like that?
I think the reason she would call them was so that they would do what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie.
Especially after she worked with Weather Report. I mean, if you can figure a way to work with Weather Report and really make great work with them, why couldn't you try to do the same thing with the police?
Well, the trouble was the police weren't getting along well with each other. So, Sting and Stuart Copeland couldn't be they couldn't be in the same room at the same time. So during the making of Ghost in the Machine, they literally had to be in separate rooms with the intercom being managed by the engineer so that they couldn't keep slagging each other off. And then their next album, their final album, was torture. They were almost coming to blows with each other. So that could have been a principal reason why they wouldn't agree to work with her, because they couldn't stand each other.
That reminds me of Roger Waters and David Gilmour. They're kind of in the same, they're two geniuses and they just.
Well, that was all Roger's fault. But anyway.
Well.
Right?
If Fitz Sting's ego in the same room with Joni is that's the question.
If you can't get along with Dave Gilmour, there's something wrong with you, But anyway, I think I would love to hear Joni and Stuart Copeland play. That would be great. But she did work with Brian Blade. I mean, she's had some really great drummers over the years, right? The other thing is, I think she would give him room because she gave Jocko a lot of room.
I guess that's true. I just think, I don't know why, but especially I would feel like for some reason, most of the things that I've heard about Joni is that she's super particular about things, you know what I mean? So, and she's kind of maybe a control freak. I'm sure maybe that's changed since she's gotten older and she's mellowed out or whatever. But, I just feel like, and plus, I mean, again, bringing back the snow, from what I understand, I mean, I've never, ever done it, so I don't know. But I would imagine cocaine makes you kind of like just super high strung and kind of a control freak about things because you want to just be in control. You know what I mean? And because it doesn't make you feel out of control. I don't know.
I had a friend who said that anytime he did cocaine, he felt like he wanted to run for mayor.
Well, then you have that Canadian guy who actually did, right?
All right, so I will say I'm a musician that's like 8,000 layers below Joni Mitchell's level, but I'm also a control freak. I know in making my albums, sometimes I approach things like this thing I am not going to control, and I want them to do their thing. So maybe there's different spaces in Joni's creativity where she approaches it like knowing that she's going to give people space.
I think if she
Does that
really
make sense?
respects the artist, I mean, and she really thinks that what they're doing is getting to her what her vision is of the song. No,
I mean, that's what she does, isn't she? Parquets the music around her music. That's
always
what she does with Wayne Shorter. So, she'll have him play a piece, like a solo, and then she'll kind of go, well, I like that note, and I like that note.
Right.
play the purple note.
Larry Carlton said that he's a wonderful editor because he, the story that she brought, or they brought Larry in when for Hejira and presumably for Don Juan and Hissing, and they would just give him 3 or 4 tracks and no information, just play what you feel. No charts, you never heard the songs before, just got a level on his guitar and then rolled the tape. And he would react basically, and they'd, after he'd recorded 3 or 4 tracks, they'd say thank you very much, and he would leave. And then the album would come out and he'd hear what they did with what he had done, and he was amazed at how cleverly they had put together these fragments. Sometimes they were put together horizontally and other times they were stacked up. So like for example on the transition into the 10th world, you're hearing about 3 layers of Larry Carlton improvisation, volume swell, bent notes and stuff all going on at once, creating this wonderful kind of atmosphere. And he certainly didn't visualize it like that, but they were able to kind of use his elements in a fresh way. And he gives her a lot of credit for being a great editor.
Wayne talked at one time about he would just come in and the same method, and he just would trust her to, or he trusted her instinct.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the film editing process where you see what you've got and then you put it together.
Anybody know if Larry Klein came to this album already knowing how to produce, or did he learn?
He was a producer already, wasn't he?
Yeah. Mhm.
I think I'm not sure about that, Paz. I think this might have been his first time he was actually credited as a producer. He was certainly a jazz bass player that was well regarded, and he ended up being the bass player in Wayne Shorter's quartet in the mid '80s. So he was well respected, but I'm not. I think how old was he? About 24 or something.
Except for one thing. Hold up one second. The disc clearly says produced by Joni Mitchell. He doesn't have a production credit.
Not on this one. Not until like Night Ride Home and Turbulent Indigo.
I think didn't he get a partial credit on Dog Eat Dog?
I agree. I think from this point on, he might have had production credit, but not. He did not get one going in on this one.
Even Thomas Dolby got a partial production credit.
I think they agreed to give him a partial credit to make him go away. Wasn't that the story?
Well, I actually side with him because he was back when programming synths were kind of how you made records. That's a lot of work. I mean, it's not just twiddling a knob and, you are literally creating the sounds, the feel, the direction of every track. And whether or not you wrote the melody or the lyrics, you have more than a minor hand in how that every song comes about. Nowadays, you hear record after record that doesn't even have any instruments on it. The whole thing's done in a Mac. Yeah. So being a producer is in the old days was about, well, I mean, back in the 50s, a producer was really the interface between the label and the finished record. So the producer's job was to make sure that the budget stayed on budget, and that but they didn't really interfere with the actual making of the music. By the 70s, the producer was stamping their own sound on the band. So think like Todd Rundgren, for example. You know, everything Todd Rundgren ever produced sounds like a Todd Rundgren record, which I happen to love. And by the 80s, being a programmer was pretty much equivalent to being a producer, because all of your choices of sounds and the way it all fits together, that became the record.
Yeah, the only credit I can find for Klein pre-Joni is 1980. He produced the film soundtrack of Raging Bull.
Huh.
But it seems that he really started picking up work in the 90s, you know, post Joni, or you know, actually probably during the time they were together. So,
All right. Do we have any final thoughts on Wild Things Run Fast before we move on? Bob, who covered this bad boy?
Only one bad boy cover of this song, and it was by a album which is near and dear to my heart. It's called Joni. It was by a European group. It was really bizarre, but I love it. Peter Herbert playing keyboards, Ina on vocals, Wolfgang Mitterer playing metal and whatever he can find in his studio, and the Coney Quartet playing a quartet background. And this is a European tribute album. And like many Europeans, they have much more value for Joni's 80s and 90s recordings than American artists do. So a lot of the songs from the 80s are on this record.
Interesting.
And so it'll come up again in tonight's conversation.
Only one cover of Wild Things Run Fast.
Only one.
All right. So we're moving on. Dave, will there be a Mutts of the Planet Wild Things Run Fast from beginning to end concert?
There will not.
Never say never.
All right, Ladies Man. The thing that always turned me off about this song was that synthesizer in there. It just,
yeah,
I feel it's this.
Wasn't that Russell Ferrante that played on that?
Yeah,
that was
okay.
fun, but
Who here loves this song? Let's start off with someone that loves it. Jahida, take it away.
Well, I mean, I love a lot of the songs on this album. I mean, how could you? Come on, you could charm diamonds off of Rattlesnake. That's like, when I first heard that line, I was like, damn it, how was she so like cool? You know, it just, and I love that she's, you know, she's bold doing that whole line, like, couldn't you just love me like you love cocaine head games?
Okay.
I mean, nobody, you know, at least I should rephrase. Women at this time were not putting that business out there. You know what I mean? It was, I mean, you had Cocaine by Eric Clapton and everyone's like, yeah, sure, of course, obviously, right? But like,
well, JJ Cale actually.
Well, yeah, sorry, you're right, my bad. Les would literally shoot me daggers right now if he heard me, because I've learned about JJ Cale from him. So but I just think, you know, if I think about women, they were putting it in kind of a lot of metaphors, and maybe, you know, not really just being blatant about it. Yeah. And I think that the fact that Joni just said it's I don't know. I think she's ballsy and I love it. You know what I mean? I feel like she's just establishing herself as being someone who does not give a shit what people think. She's telling the story and that's it, right? And so I also think that the kind of cool, sensual, like, music just really adds to it. It's kind of little lounge lizardy, you know, in a way, and I just love it. So,
Meanwhile, Fleetwood Mac was like, nothing to see here.
well, good Lord. Thank God what it was Stevie Nicks finally stopped, because I remember her saying like her doctor was like, if you don't stop, you're not going to have any notes.
Nothing to see here. Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Who do you think the song was about, Jahida? I mean, it wasn't about Klein.
I totally, definitely not Klein. I was thinking maybe
John Guerin.
Mm-hmm. Sue, your hand is up.
God, I love the lines in this song. First you unfold them, then you pigeonhole them, ladies man. That's an amazing line.
That is a good line.
And the other line I love is, I'm gonna have to read it because I'll mess it up. Come on.
You guys might make me love this song. It's happened on this podcast before.
Okay. I guess you learn to refuse what you think you can't handle. You're acting like a vandal, wrecking the dream at the first bad scene. Holy shit, man. If I could say that to a guy, I would just feel like I would feel like Wonder Woman.
You ought to try some of those lines, Jeremy.
I know. I'm like, okay. I might be on board with this, Bob.
I mean, a very interesting line. I'm throwing it out here to this panel because I truly am interested to hear what you have to say. The line before the cocaine head games, she says, "Why do you keep trying to make a man out of me?" Where is she going with that line?
Whoa, hold on.
Why do you try to make a man of me?
Yeah.
Why
do you keep on trying to make a man of me? Couldn't you just love me?
Well, I mean, if we're thinking John Guerin too, I mean, she is the head of the band, right? So maybe it's the fact that she's kind of, he's treating her like one of the boys because they've been together for so long. And she wants someone who gives her those sweet, like solid love underneath the streetlight feelings. And I think that's what Larry Klein did for her. He treated her like, obviously she is the experienced thing, but he also treated her like a woman and like, made her feel like a giddy little girl,
Nice. I like that.
As opposed to, like John Guerin was just like, come on, Joni, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there, but you know what I mean? I feel like she was just one of the boys to him.
Man, she wanted to be treated like a woman.
This record, why is Guerin all over this record? You'd think by now she'd say, look, get out of my life, get out of my studio.
He gave her a discount. She's like, oh, not much money left after Mingus. Better get the discounted drummer.
Of all the songs on the record, this is the one that I see. I feel I see the least of Joni in. I don't know who wrote this song.
Oh, wow.
I really don't. I just don't. I don't see her. I don't know where she went for a moment here.
It's a grown-up Joni. She's no longer the folky, no longer the hippie. She went through all kinds of different stuff. So certainly,
you can't be a 40-year-old.
Realize
it feels
cocaine fueled.
No, it just feels superficial. I don't know why. And maybe that's what she's describing, and she's describing it superficially because that's the point she's trying to make. I don't know. I couldn't find me here. Maybe that's it.
Who you could find though? You could find Lionel Richie on the background vocals.
Yeah. Along with Valentino.
And Valentino and Charles, yeah.
Before he was dancing on the ceiling, he was dancing on the cocaine.
It's Larry Williams on the synth.
I think that's why.
Yeah, it was Larry Williams. It wasn't my buddy Ferrante. Yeah, I agree with Jahida. I think it's the music itself is real feel good, and I was in love at the time, so I dug this album. I wasn't really crazy about Mingus. It took me a long time to get Mingus totally, but this certainly was an uplifting experience for me.
I think this song can speak for women. Women seem to like it. I think Chaka Khan is one of her favorites. I think.
Just a straight ahead feeling, baby.
Is this the last album where she kind of hit those high notes? because there's some higher notes on this song that I feel like we may have not heard again quite like that.
Until Bird That Whistles.
Which was recorded during this, though, right?
I don't know. Maybe it is.
I thought A Bird That Whistles was recorded during Wild Things and then put on Chalkmark.
Possibly. But going back to Chris's point, it is the writing. It's so direct. It's not layered. And that's what, because Joni's the master of show don't tell. Here, she's just telling.
Bob.
So this song's way before #MeToo. But when I heard this song, and I heard it many, many, many times, I'd listen to this record pretty much every day when it came out. This made me think about the way I treated women, as a man.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other thoughts on Ladies Man?
Well, I like Jamie's point about showing and telling, because that is, Joni is the master of showing you in a painterly way, painting with words and not telling you outright. And in all these podcasts, we've been exploring how well she does that. And then this album, she abandons that. And that's why it feels shallow, because she's not doing the poetic thing. She's almost like it's like a banner. There's nothing, there's no layer to it. It's just up front. Maybe that was a decision to just be with the times and be just out front and in your face. But
might have been the whole point. She wanted to be that direct because that's the only language that whoever she was trying to talk to would understand.
Yeah, we don't know who she was talking to. We're surmising, but I suppose it could be any number of 80s or late 70s guys in the music business, or in Hollywood.
But also people she wanted to connect with, like, the music of the era was pretty facile, was pretty like surface, I guess. Well, a lot of pop music. We're getting into, we weren't quite new romantic here.
Don't forget the biggest hit for Police was do 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 da 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 da. What does that mean?
All right, Jim, your hand was up.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, very much the surface, because I keep talking about Joni's duality, and there's just like no duality here at all. It's all just straight ahead. It's almost like representational painting instead of abstract painting. It's all very, very literal. That's it.
All right.
Yeah, it feels like that was the point. After Mingus, especially. But
get over it, you guys. Get over it.
I don't know, Paz. I think this is the anti-Joni.
I was over it from the first time I heard it, so I don't know about you. No,
She was in a fiery car.
Jahida's giving me a dirty look.
Oh, you just wait till we get to Dog Eat Dog.
I love that album. I love Dog Eat Dog.
Yeah, okay.
Had to
We're
be
coming.
there, man. You had to
We're
be there
coming.
to know how it feels to say something like that.
Exactly. Heartbreaker.
I admit that all my opinions are probably wrong about everything.
What I did want to say was that there was I'm kind of jumping on Bob a little bit, but the cover that has never, ever left me since I heard it was by Judith in
Judith All.
Yeah. In at Pozfest. I mean,
Yeah.
she took that song and really just kind of made it her own in a lot of ways, which is very difficult to do for Joni,
Uh-huh.
And she reminded me of, like, talking about 80s, Tori Amos, just kind of, she made that piano her bitch. And, but she just also the way that she I felt like these words were almost written by her. You know what I mean? The way she was singing them. So
Yeah.
I have to give major snaps to Judith for that, because she just
Wow.
floored me.
All of the covers that Judith has done of Joni's stuff have been, very powerful for me. And for me, I like staying closer to the original melody and everything. But, the first time she played those, we were invited over to her house, and the thing took place. The listening party took place in what she calls the Caligula room. And so this is on Dauphine Street in the French Quarter, and it's this white room with ornate gold stuff in it, and a 6.5-foot grand piano, and it was stunning when I first heard that. And then her cover of Cherokee Louise was equally as powerful. And so for Pazfest, she was actually going to do 6 songs that night, and Harry was going to do like 3 or 4, but they ended up doing less for whatever reason. I don't know why. But yeah, everything that I heard them rehearse was like incredible.
A little side note, Jahida, will you be joining me for some Tori Amos Phonogenics in the future?
Ooh.
Anybody here Tori fans besides me? I love her.
I love her to
I
death.
do like Tony, but Tori, but I don't know that I would be that much of a fan. I mean, Boys for Pele was the quintessential album to me.
I mean, obviously we're stopping at some point. There's a point in Tori where you stop and don't keep going with that.
But I don't know. I would love to be part of it. I don't know how much I could add to that, but yeah.
You stop it under the pink.
Boys for Pele was amazing.
I like Scarlet's Walk. That was my.
Oh, that's a good one too.
I like Scarlet's Walk. I like Under the Pink. There was 2 New Orleans musicians on that, George Porter Jr. on bass, and then who played drums? God, I just zoned.
Before we get back to Joni, I'll say the new Tori, not my favorite that she's ever put out. So anyway,
is it just out now?
Yeah, Ocean to Ocean.
I'll listen to that tomorrow. Where's my pen?
Yeah, and send an email what you think. I'm curious. Ruben's joining us, y'all.
Oh, yay!
All right,
Hi,
so Ruben. Do we have any thoughts on Ladies Man before we move on? Ruben, do you have any thoughts on Ladies Man before we move on?
I love Ladies Man. It's one of my favorite songs on the album.
Really?
Attaboy.
And thank you for. I just saw this email. I thought this was next week. I've been looking forward to this one forever.
Oh, that would have been terrible if you missed it.
Oh, thank you. I put these in 2 playlists about a year ago, and I have the fast songs on one and the slow songs on the other. And I like the slow playlist better. But I love Ladies Man. It's a great song. Can charm the diamonds off a rattlesnake. That's one of my favorite ones.
Bob, who covered Ladies Man?
4 covers of this one. The first one was an instrumental cover from the Rachel Z Trio on their instrumental Joni tribute album in 2002. Chaka Khan, as has been referenced, did it on a record of hers. And then also notably, Fabio Ranza and Elisabetta Zamberlan did it on their Joni tribute record, which is pretty much a Wild Things Run Fast tribute record. I mean, they did like 8 or 9 of these songs on their tribute album. So, yeah.
Wow.
Almost the entire thing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of
They
random.
love it. Europeans are much more into 80s and 90s Joni than Americans are.
I'm so American.
Yeah. Most Americans are.
Do you have Judith's version from the album?
Yeah, I do.
Do you have that whole album? Do you have her doing the Donna Summer stuff? And
I don't. I just have her covers.
Yeah.
I have that. It's called Rediscovered, and it's great. It's from beginning to end. It's a great record.
You should check out that whole record, Bob. I think you like that record. It's really pretty amazing.
Who is the artist?
Judith Owen. She's a friend of mine. She lives part-time here in New Orleans, and then lives in Santa Monica, but she's married to Harry Shearer from
She does a weekly podcast called For Fuck's Sake. It's fun.
Yeah, Oh God, yeah, definitely check out her podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on, we are going to Haida. Are you performing "Moon at the Window"? Now, before your performance,
I am.
why, when Joni Mitchell did the song in the '90s, did she cut out the first verse? Does anybody know? Or am I imagining things? Because it's been a long time since I've listened. I feel like she comes in at a different, like later in the song in her live version.
Yeah, she cuts out the first part.
I assumed on that Gene Autry live thing that was an accident. That maybe she
No,
didn't.
she played it like that a couple of times
Did she really?
when she was promoting Turbulent Indigo. Yeah.
Yeah, she always came in a little bit later in the song.
Yeah.
She always starts with Betsy's Blue.
Came in on Betsy's Blue instead of It Takes Cheerful Resignation.
Yeah.
So, Chahida, will you be doing the Wild Things version or the Turbulent Indigo tour version?
Wild Things.
Cool. All right, well, let me spotlight you.
Hopefully, you guys let me know if the sound is all right. I'm going to use this Mamma Jamma. Okay. By the way, I even put a moon and a star.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm so glad you put She Shed in your name because I almost just called it the Chick Shack.
I'm just a little extra, so
I absolutely love it.
all right, let's see. Can you hear it?
Jahida, we can't hear it. You might need to have your
Turn it up a bit.
Okay. Let me stop it then. See, this is why a sound check's always good.
You should have called.
I am ready to try again. Take two.
That's killer, Jahida.
Jahida, I don't think I was recording. Can you do that again, please?
Kick the shit out of that one.
My goodness. Damn.
That was.
Y'all get this record, Jeremy.
I like your guys' versions better than Joni's, though.
Thank you, guys.
Where did you get that fantastic backtrack? I didn't know that.
It's called Spleeter.
What is it?
So, Les has this thing called Spleeter. It's like it just is it takes out the vocals of any song, and I have 100% used it because
wow.
Yeah, so
fantastic.
Yeah, it did sound like the original track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did a great job. That was
guys. Thank you.
I can't figure out how that works because usually the apps that remove the vocals from a track also remove the bass.
Yeah, they have a shadow of some kind. Yeah,
it's pretty good, Dave.
Despite usually they just divide the music into the left, the center, and the right, and they take out the center where the vocal is, but that of course takes out the snare and the bass drum and the bass as well. But you could hear plenty of bass on that track, so I don't know how that worked.
Yeah, it's a neat program. You should download it and check it out.
AI assisted or something now.
Yeah, it's Leader AI is what it's called.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I have always loved this song, and now I love it even a little bit more.
one of my absolute favorites on the whole record.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
never worry about your voice being heard.
Who?
You never worry about.
I guess that's true.
All right, Bob, you're gonna start this one off.
So yeah, if you would go way back, and Sue will knows where I'm going here. Brad McMath, after he impregnated her with Kelly Kaloran, when he left and went to California, he left her a note, right, that said the moon at the window, the thief left that behind, which was not his original poem. It was a kind of a classic poem, I think. But I don't know if she kept the note. She certainly kept the image. And this song, 15 years later, 20 years later, was the result of that note, which again references back to Chinese cafe, you know, I had a child which I bore, but I could not raise.
All right, Sue, and then Jim.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, and you know that wasn't the only song that had the moon image in it. She had "Moon in the Mirror," which was
Sure.
a song she wrote. You know,
Lots of moon references.
recorded. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. But this song is fabulous, and I remember when I first started learning how to do the tunings. Learning this song was like probably the best day of my life. I just loved playing this song so much, and yeah, I can't remember what the tuning is, but yeah, I mean, and it's kind of it's very jazzy, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, I really think that I mean, I don't know if it could have been on Mingus, but it, you know, it's like it kind of reminds me of you know, some of her more jazzy songs. Maybe Court and Spark too, you know. But
The lineage is definitely there.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, and you know, like just like this train maybe. But you know, I just really love this song. I'm trying to think of what else to say about it, but really the whole image of the moon and that whole event that happened of her leaving art school and going to Toronto, you know, and all the pain that happened at that point. You know, and she's trying to console a woman in this too. You know, and you think about, you know, all the sorrow that she went through. Maybe she's trying to console herself, you know, as she goes through this, you know, thinking about this memory. You know? Yeah, it's great.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, very much so. As I was saying before, a lot of just about all these songs are about, well, they're about the immediate moment. It's almost like she's therapeutically going back and replaying things and putting them in context. And so this pain of being dumped with a daughter is, um, I you know I think it was kind of like therapeutic. She pulled it up and looked at it, and she is thinking it's like ghosts at night. She was very much a night owl in this song. That's enough for me.
Which she was in life, right? I mean, she always was a night person. She stayed up all night and slept during the day.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Jahida.
Well, I wanted to go over some of these lyrics because I just feel like they should, and I kind of, so it's funny because the first time I heard rattle rattle like in the spoon in the glass, it made me think of two things. Well, one that came later, but the first time is it called back to me the song Edith and the Kingpin. You know, where she's he turns her gently to a spoon, and then where does that hand desire, right? And I just imagine that this is almost like later in some way, and like Betsy's kind of like also, I don't know if I'm just reaching or what, but you know, where it's like there is still shades of the Kingpin, and that Betsy has just kind of, you know, this is part of her, she was involved with him as well, you know what I mean? And so it's like, you know, when the spooks of memories rattle, ghosts of the future, phantoms of the past. So that's why I'm like, well, maybe she was one of those other girls in the ring at the time, who knows, you know? I also now, of course, think about freaking Get Out. That movie has ruined me for a rattling cup, you know, a spoon in a teacup. So now, of course, I think of that like rattle, rattle, and the spoon in the glass, and I'm like, don't go there, don't go to the dark place. But then you go to just these lines that only she can make seem like kind of throwaway lines, but are so chef's kiss. You know, people don't know how to love. they taste it and toss it. You know, that like it
I know
feels,
you love the alliteration in that. Taste it.
oh, of course. You know, I'm a big fan of alliteration, but it's just kind of one of those things too where you're just like, good Lord, you know, anybody else, they'd be like, one of the best lines of my repertoire, you know, and it's like for Joni, it's like, meh, you know.
Now, the spoon in the glass thing, I always thought was a memory of recalling the wedding, like when people do that thing against the glass, and you know, the bride and the groom are supposed to kiss, and that that kind of always reminded me of that was
Another
something that was
wonderful
haunting
thing.
her.
For sure. I mean, and this is the beauty too, right, of her music, is that she is so wonderful at painting pictures with her words, you know, and it's different for everybody depending on what you've experienced, right? And then of course, you know, later on, she's just like, is it possible to learn how to care and yet not care? Which, you know, kind of almost goes with that people don't know how to love, they taste it and toss it. It's like, you know, when you've been in that relationship that's like fast and fleeting, you know, hot blazes turned to smoke and ash, right? And so it's just kind of one of those things, like for her, I feel in a way this is her saying like, is it possible for me, you know, to learn how to care and yet not care, you know, and be able to be in a relationship with somebody and yet not let it break me when it doesn't work the way I expect, you know, and I think that's just a universal thing anyway, right? So certainly I think, and then of course obviously nobody's harder on me than me. How could they be? And nobody's harder on you than you. I mean, if you're any sort of artist at all, you know that. You know, you feel that line. You're like, mm-hmm.
The theme of her wrestling with overthinking or over analyzing or overreacting to things comes up a lot. Mm-hmm. And this is, I think, another example of it. I think it's one of the best songs on the record.
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly. And the fact that she delivers it in this way that, you know, people could skip over this and not realize it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then here she is just like, she's getting deep in this song. And yes, I agree, Sue. Very jazzy, probably why I immediately like, you know, gravitate towards it. It's just got that real cool kind of way of being and feel, and it's just I don't know. I also hear that, and it's probably why oh gosh, no, I think I'm lying again, but I think, you know, it's one of those songs that would really lend itself to being a song that's, again, kind of a torch song. And that's all I have to say about that.
All right, we have Bob and then Ruben.
Yeah, it's a great tune. It's a great jazz tune, and I think what Dave said about the banging drums. This one, you have the brushes on the drums to drive the song along. And to Jim's point, this is the duality song, Jim, on this record, right? Is it possible to learn how to care and yet not care? Since love has two faces, hope and despair, and pleasure always turns to fear, I find. So here's the duality, right? Here it is. The great big pocket on Wild Things Run Fast is right here in this song.
All right, Ruben, and then Jamie.
I love this song. And I'm a big fan of this album. I know not everybody is, but to me, this is a song on this album that rises to the very top and becomes one of her instant classics for me. I think I won't repeat everything that Jahida just said, but I agree with everything you just said. Does anybody remember, she told a story once that another singer had criticized it because of the form, and I feel like it was Ella Fitzgerald. Is that true? Does anybody remember that story? Mm-hmm. And it was a weird, I'll see if I can find it tonight. It was a weird connection between her and this other singer. I wondered if anybody knew the context behind it. I think it was Ella Fitzgerald, and I wondered, did anybody like that ever cover this? I will hear that after, I guess, but I'll look it up.
For that, because I remember any interaction between Ella Fitzgerald and
That's what I thought. I know it was an older jazz singer from the generation before.
Was it Etta James?
No, it wasn't Etta James. I don't think. No, it wasn't Etta James. It was. Let me look it up. I'll see if I can find it.
All right, Jamie.
I was just going to read the notes on jonimitchell.com about the song, about the poem that it comes from. And the poem is called The Thief Left It Behind, and it's by a Japanese Buddhist poet called Ryokan, who died in 1831. And according to Ivan M. Granger, the moon is a common metaphor, especially among the Zen poets, to represent enlightened awareness. In this haiku, Ryokan is laughing at the absurdity of the theft. The thief left it behind. He foolishly couldn't recognize the one great treasure the poor monk possessed, the moon, or enlightenment, and instead took an armload of worthless junk. To point out what a petty haul it was, Ryokan even ran after the thief with the mist cushion. And any sort of theft of Ryokan's possessions was a pointless act because, of course, who can take the moon from his window? Ryokan is amused and invites us to join in his laughter.
Awesome.
I swear, Jamie, you could read the fucking telephone book and I would be like...
I know, I'm like, hello. All right, do we have any other thoughts on Moon at the Window before we move on? Pause.
So yeah, I mean, I agree with what everybody's saying too, and I forget about this one too when I was talking at the top of the hour or of the program. It really is one of the great ones on this album, and yeah, I was going to say, I was looking up the chords on it, Sue, and I noticed that on your chart you start with Betsy's Blue as the first verse. So when you did this, you must have charted it from one of those other things.
I wonder if the jazz singer that commented on the structure of the song caused Joni to drop that first verse.
No,
Wow.
Marion did the whole song, but yeah, I think my tab came before Marion's. So.
Wow. And so did where was that other thing played? Was it played live? Where are those?
She played a lot of remember that Canadian show that she played? It was a long show. She played for about an hour.
Right, on Fuse.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I'll go look
Music,
that
I
up.
think it was called. Yeah.
And that live version was on a promo single as a B-side somewhere too.
Yeah.
I have
and
somewhere.
She also played it on the Gene Autry show,
Mhm.
which was a tape that went around.
She also played it on the Morning Becomes Electra.
Yeah, right. It was a radio show, yeah.
Yeah, Morning Becomes Electric, that's it. Eclectic.
Yeah.
Dave.
Just a little music theory point that, yes, of course, the beat is jazzy, but also the chords are built in fourths, which is a style of harmonizing that came about in the early 60s with McCoy Tyner, and it's a very distinctive sound where you're used to hearing chords that are based on major or minor, but when you build them in fourths, they're neither. They're very nebulous sounding, and so that was a feature. That's a feature in this that she uses in this song, and it lends itself to that kind of modern jazz vibe. So actually, the swing thing is actually fairly old-fashioned. I mean, that could be from the '40s, but the chords definitely give it a modern flavor.
And Dave,
have you guys ever done anything from this album, Dave, at all?
We haven't, no.
Not any song. Wow.
And Dave, I don't want to put you on the spot, but overall, what do you think of this song? I'm curious.
Well, when Jahida sings it, I'm into it.
Yeah, same here. I love Jahida's version.
And no, it's obviously a fun and sexy song. I just feel, I guess I just still have my reservations about the way this album is put together. It seems like it's got some really strong things like Chinese Cafe and some pretty strong things like this, and then some real duds, and that's just not what we're used to with her.
Right.
But anyway, I'm sure that's a later topic, but I do like this song. I've heard it many times, and I like it more than most of the rest of the album.
So, Bob, how many people covered this?
Total of 13, starting in 1998 with a singer called Penny Dyer. It's been done by several of the artists that I've mentioned earlier who did the Wild Things covers tribute albums. And it's also been integrated into several artists who did Moon tribute CDs.
Oh,
All the songs have something to do with Moon, Moon Dance, et cetera, et cetera. Think of all the Moon songs. So kind of fun on that note too.
makes me want to get a Moons Over My Hammy from down at Denny's down the street.
Just don't Moon it.
All right, so next on the album is Solid Love, and then after that is Be Cool, and then no, I'm just kidding. I won't skip over it. So Solid Love.
I just want to say that I am gonna go to bed. So I'll hear the rest of the recording. But it's been nice chatting and nice listening.
We'll see you next month, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie.
Dog eat dog. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Solid Love, I can kind of deal with it till it goes into that like the rockin' part, which I just feel is so bland. I can't take it. So maybe I just won't talk. Who loves this song? Jahida, take it away.
Well, I already said this is the song like when Les and I were first,
Oh.
well, at least when I was falling in love with Les. This is, this and I look like I'm wearing horns. Sorry.
When I fell in love with Les.
Well, but
It made her horny.
It made her horny.
I mean, you did.
Wow, the heater was cutting in and out.
Well, but it was this song that I just kept wanting, playing because it's kind of, same. I was just giddy and happy, and then also "You're My Thrill" from Joni, which is much later. But those two are just, they're cemented at a specific time and place in my heart. And I'm just lucky, I think. So, yeah, I love Solid Love. I mean, sure. Is it cheesy? Yeah, but love is cheesy. When you're falling in love and you're all like, giddy and it's like that first couple feelings, that is the height of freaking cheesiness. You know what I mean? You're a walking Hallmark card, So it's just, yeah, I love the song. I don't begrudge Joni for, breaking tradition in terms of having her "My Heart Is Broken, Here It Is on the Floor" kind of songs, and actually just reveling in the cheese and the happiness. Good for her,
Well, I will say when I need that euphoria, I head over towards CeCe Peniston finally.
Oh my God.
And that's Solid Love. And this is a little cynical, but you can put all the gated drums and the synths and everything you want on this album, but when you say "Hot Dog Darling," that's kind of is a little
and she doesn't even just say "hot dog" once, she says it a couple times. But yeah, I mean, that's again, there's Joni's cheesiness, what I mean?
Did you ever say that to Les, Jahida? Were you ever like, "Hey Les, hot dog, darling"?
No, I have never said that, but
could you? Please?
I have been a bit corny sometimes and be like, "Hubba hubba," or like to paraphrase my favorite show, New Girl, "Hubba hubba, mama's in trouble,"
Watch, I'm gonna meet the perfect man over the next month. Then next month I'm gonna be like, "Hot dog, darling," you guys.
Yeah, musically, this song is not one of my favorites on the album. It's probably my least favorite on the album, but I do love, I do love the story. I do love the lyrics. I do love the hot dog darling part. All of the stuff that she writes. I mean, I see Joni. No, it's not her most prolific stuff. It's not Refuge of the Roads. It's not Hejira. It's not For the Roses. But I do feel her in there, and I just do see like the imagery and what it makes me feel. Of course, I was in love at this time too. So love always made me feel so uneasy. I couldn't relax and just be me. More like some strange disease than this solid love. So, I do identify with a lot of the stuff that she's saying there. But musically, it definitely was not one of my faves on the album.
Yeah, I do like the verses, and but then when she gets into the you do, you do, you do, you do, you really do, I don't. Ruben, was your hand up? And then Bob.
I just think I don't mind the cheesiness either. I think that's one thing I like about this album is she's a little less, a little more down to earth on this one than some, I think, to me. But this particular song, I like the lyrics. I don't like the tune or something. It's one of my least favorites on the album too. But I don't mind the sentiment, I guess.
Yeah, cheese is good.
Yeah, cheese can be good. Sue.
Sue, you're muted.
Okay. So I don't really. This song is also not my favorite on the album, but since I'm dating a guy who's 10 years younger than me.
Hot dog, darling.
Hot dog, Sue.
Hot dog. So I was listening to it this week, obviously getting ready for here, and I was hanging out with my sister and a couple other women on, and they were like harassing me, saying, "Oh, he smokes," and it's like, how do you deal with that, And I said, he's really cute.
Like, how do you deal with that? Easily.
And I'm like,
they're jealous, honey.
So after listening to this song, I was like thinking about, I was like, yeah, I get it. It's cool. I mean, you get giddy. So, and nobody understands. But I wanted to say one other thing about this album. I can't remember what article it was, but somebody was asking her why this wasn't as popular or something. I know it did well. I mean, I think Wild Things Run Fast did okay. But she said some people don't like the album because they don't like it when I'm happy. They prefer when I suffer.
Right.
And it's like, even she knew, it was like, oh well, too bad.
Yeah.
I'm happy. Deal with it,
Suck it up.
Suck it up. That's pretty funny.
All right, so we're gonna do Chris and then Bob.
I just wanted to say that this song sort of encapsulates the kind of feeling I get from a lot of the photographs from this period, where she's just, again, the widest mouth smiles you've ever seen. She's not choosing, photographs to go out that are, making her look
like a serious artist,
glamorous or sophisticated. She's just enjoying some joy and spreading some joy. And this song, it's probably the one thing that I actually will give it is that it is unbridled joy in that regard, and it's having a lot of fun. I think I prefer this to Underneath the Streetlight for that reason. I don't actually find Underneath the Streetlight that joyous a particular song, but I hope I make it to that point in our conversation. Anyway, it just reminds me, this goes well with the photographs, at least of her at the time, I think.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, it's parallel to what a lot of folks have said with this song. It's obviously not the best song, probably one of the worst songs on this record. You have to compare what she wrote on Hissing and Hajira and Don Juan. I mean, she, that's where the bar is, right? And then you have this song, which is fun. We're all glad she's in love, but it's just not a good song. The slight reggae tint to it, which is harkening back to the Police influence that she has on this record. But yeah, not a favorite. Love this record. Don't love this song.
I just feel like you can do Happiness a little better than this.
Yeah.
If you want me, I'll be in the bar.
Madonna's Confessions album, which we did on our Madonna, she has a line, other cities like New York and other places make me feel like a dork, which is like a terrible lyric. I feel like the hot dogs, the one from Joni.
Yeah, ouch, ouch, ouch.
Good for her, though. Let's let her have some fun. Jim?
I think the bar for Joni being happy, I think this is a lot better than Love Is Like a Big Brass Band. Right? This is worlds better than that.
You know what song I love? And we're not there yet, but I like Lucky Girl. Like, that song is a happy song. It makes me really happy. Like,
Really great song.
I love that song. So that, to me, like, that's my happy.
And Robin sings that, doesn't she, Dave?
Yes, I've heard her.
We have done it, but Jahida sings the shit out of it.
Oh my gosh!
In fact, Jahida and I have done it at the Dorset Fest, and so there's a recording of that. We just did it a few weeks ago, actually, because we were in Colorado. That was fun.
I love that fucking song.
What I remember of that night.
I would love to hear that. I hope you do it next time.
Less than his tequila. Yeah.
I think we depleted his supplies that night.
How'd the parking lot do, though?
But yeah, it's a fun tune, but it's damaged by the drum machine programming. I know we're not onto that album yet, but I'm talking about Lucky Girl. It is a cool tune, but it's very hidden by the production.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
We'll be bringing out the boards and the nails next month.
Oh yeah.
See, I like the drum machine. I'm a big Pointer Sisters fan from the 80s. Give me Lisa and Dog Eat Dog.
Did you just say Lisa?
Yeah.
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah. Listen, I'm all cried out. That's why I don't have a solid love.
Oh my God. My aunt was really good friends with her, so.
Oh, she still sounds great, by the way. I saw her in the Freestyle Explosion tour.
It's true. Sorry, we're digressing. But
I know. Let the beat hit him. All right. Bob, how many people covered Solid Love?
Solid 4.
Solid
the first one was our buddy David Lom in 1999 on his first Joni tribute CD, and he knew enough to drop the words and do an instrumental version with the band. So props to David for that. There was no hot dogs included. No.
Is there anyone else that would like the song more if it stayed on the reggae kind of feel instead of going into that more straight ahead 4/4 section? That's the one that I'm just like, ooh. If it stayed.
It sounds too much like white people trying to play reggae to me.
Okay.
That's just me. I know I sound like a racist against white people right now. Okay, excuse me.
There's definitely such thing as white people reggae. We can't deny that. Go to any beach in Clearwater, Florida. Okay, so are we taking a break? Should we take a break? This is the end of side 1, right?
Yes.
All right, let's take a little break. All right, we are back. Phonogenics 101, side 2 of Wild Things Run Fast. We're going to do it all in one night. I'm determined. Thanks again to my Patreon subscribers and to the YouTube subscribers. And I just got to say a little tiny story. Right now, I'm rewatching the Gem and the Holograms cartoon from the 80s. And there's a scene where they're talking about how they're going to pave over a building. And then when the character goes, and put up a parking lot. I'm like, oh, Joni Mitchell and Jim. So that was pretty cool. All right. So side 2 begins with another jazz song. We had a little bit of a jazz feel on Moon at the Window, but this song is called Be Cool, and it never was one of my favorites. So Jahida, why do you love this song?
God.
Pause. Take it away.
I just love this tune. It's so much fun to play. And I remember we did one of the Paz Fest. It was either Paz Fest 2 or 3. I had Beehive from the Saturday Night Live band was in town, and she sang Both Sides Now, and then she sat in with me and sang this one, and it was just so much fun to do. But yeah, I love it. It's a fun tune. This whole album is, like I said, is a joyful album. It is not her best work as far as prolific and all that, but it's just super fun. And this is one of those. I think Lionel is on this one too, isn't he?
I just like a personal preference. I'm never a huge fan of whispering in songs. So the fire and ice, just kind of like personal preference, though. Everyone's got their thing.
I'm going to send you a tune that I just produced. And actually, the first single, he whispers the verse. So I just want you to hear this. You'll make you laugh.
So Michael, no Lionel on this song.
Who sings the thing with her?
The whisper chorus is John Guerin, Kenny Rankin. I don't know where that came from.
Kenny Rankin, maybe.
Robert De La Garza, Skip Cattrall, and Joni Mitchell. That's the whisper chorus.
I didn't realize there was a whole whisper chorus. I thought it was just Joni. So that's like those modern songs where it takes like 12 people to write it. Why did they have to have a whole whisper chorus? Am I ruining the podcast with my negativity? I'm sorry. I'm wrong about everything.
No, it's good. It's good that there's multiple positions on music. I mean, everybody can't like everything,
Once we get to Dog Eat Dog, I'm gonna be the only one that's like smoking the best song ever. Ruben,
well, you need to hear Bob Mueller's cover of Dancing Clown. You haven't.
I can't wait.
Pull that out of the archives to be played. The version that you did.
It's out there. Yeah, it's out there.
Yeah.
I think Joni's going to put that on her archives when she gets to it.
Yeah.
I have it, Bob.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
This is way inside for the audience.
I love Be Cool. Be Cool is an amazing jazz tune. It's the most popular song on the record in terms of covers. 37 jazz artists have jumped on this tune and loved it and pounded it for good reason. It's a damn fine song. And it's back to duality, Jim Lamadou, Fire and Ice, Fire and Ice.
You stole all my best lines, Bob. I was gonna talk about 50-50 Fire and Ice.
Well,
I've given that advice to coworkers sometimes, and they're just at wit's end, and I'll go, hey, and they don't know where it comes from, but we know.
Yeah, Pat Benatar.
I agree. It's a great jazz song. I mean, it works for me anyway.
Dave.
Oh, Dave, your mic's off.
About a week ago, Robin and I were invited to be part of a podcast that was for jazz singers who specialize in Joni Mitchell, and they had Laurie Antonioli and Tierney Sutton and Robin and the hostess was Ellen Johnson, who was a jazz singer from San Diego, and so for a couple of hours, we're talking about, how to interpret Joni Mitchell music from a jazz vocalist point of view. And Tierney had done I'm a kind of big fan of Tierney's, and she had done a really great cover of Be Cool with Al Jarreau. Al Jarreau, his health was ailing at the time, and they had agreed on a trade where she would sing something on his album and he would return the favor, but the favor never got returned because his health declined and he passed away. But anyway, so she got to have Al Jarreau on her record, but said I could never have afforded to pay him otherwise. But then they played the cover that she done of, which I'm sure Bob has, and it's really a great cover of Be Cool. I mean, it lends itself, of course, to being for jazz vocalists, but how do you do something different with it that Joni didn't already do? And so what Tierney did was make it into kind of a duet with a male vocalist.
Yeah, it's great. It is great. And I love Al Jarreau. I mean, Look to the Rainbow is one of the best live albums ever recorded, in my opinion.
Woo, baby, you ain't never lied.
He was a great vocalist.
That was a fun discussion. Just looking at and there were students of jazz vocals in the podcast who were kind of hearing the input of vocalists who've spent a lot of time working with Joni's music, and Laurie's one of them, of course, and Tierney and Robin. But it was very fun.
All right. Do we have any other thoughts on Be Cool? I remember when Travelogue came out and I saw on the track list, I'm like, maybe this is where I'm gonna get captured by this song, and it didn't happen there either.
I liked the Travelogue version too. I liked the original better, but
You like the original better?
This is one of the ones I remember from when I first heard this. My mother bought this on cassette when I was 7 or 8 when it came out, and the only other one I had heard was Ladies of the Canyon years before, and I remember realizing it was the same woman, and it was just miles from one to the other. And I thought she was the coolest chick ever, and I still do. So
I love that.
Till you met Jahida.
Until I met Jahida, yeah.
Oh, exactly. Jahida, wherever you are, we're loving on you right now.
From a cover standpoint, this was the first song on the record that got covered in 1985.
Oh.
By an Australian jazz singer named Jackie Fitzgerald. Yeah, so
I was just reading over the lyrics. I'm like, I need to kind of take some of this to heart. So I might listen to this on my way to work tomorrow. Had to email you guys and be like, you're all right. I was Sue.
No, I was thinking about bringing that up. It's like somebody wise talking to you, or somebody telling you to get a grip, dude.
Keep things light.
Yeah, yeah.
I wish I would have followed that advice a few times.
Well, part of it is like, is Joni my guru? Yes. So I listened to her.
Listen to Joni.
If your heart is on the floor, because you just seen your lover. This is a John Guerin thing again. You just seen your lover coming through the door with a new fool. Be cool.
Be cool. This is Joni giving advice instead of wondering about it all.
Right, yeah.
She's got it figured out on this song.
So she's arrived as the older and wiser,
Mm-hmm.
which we knew from Chinese Cafe.
Yeah.
And on the travelogue, we're just like, don't whine. She emphasizes, don't whine.
Kiss off the flaky Valentine. All right, I'm gonna have to listen to this on my way to work tomorrow.
I thought it was nice too. She encourages everybody to be their own best friend tonight. So
I like that too. All right. Well, any other thoughts on Be Cool? My final thought is that you guys are giving me some things to think about tomorrow. Because I didn't get a chance to listen to this one before. Sometimes I like to listen to them after the podcast so I can take everything everyone says with me and then revisit it after I haven't heard it in a long time. So that's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. All right. She covered Why Do Fools Fall in Love on Shadows and Light. We had Centerpiece on Hissing of Summer Lawns and Twisted on Court and Spark. But did anything prepare us for Joni's cover of You're So Square, Baby I Don't Care?
Not really.
Maybe I don't care about this track.
And wasn't this the first single too?
Was it the first single?
I think "You're So Square," "Back with Love" was the first single.
I hate this song.
Oh, whoa, 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 oh! What's so bad is the bass, like.
This might be the only Joni song that I routinely skip on any album.
Same.
It's not my favorite, but I don't think I ever skip it. It's fun the way she sings it and everything. You know, it's cheesy.
Couldn't there be a better first single though, in everyone's opinion? I wonder if the album would have done better if it led by a different single.
God, yeah, I certainly wouldn't have done that.
Wild Things would have been better.
Be Cool would have been a single.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know. In '82, maybe not. I mean, '82 radio wasn't Be Cool oriented.
True.
It would have been a segue from Mangus, though.
Well,
I think with the turning of the decade, you know, like every artist kind of has to renew themselves or refresh their whole image, and not just the hairstyle, but you've got to be current with the new decade. I remember talking to Johnny Mandel once, and he said, and this was in 1989, and he said, "I'm bagged as a '60s artist, and I can't get out of that. I'm having to buy a Mac and learn about MIDI and synthesizers, and I don't understand any of it." And here's like the greatest arranger composer working at the time in the business, and he was feeling like, I have to kind of become current to be taken seriously. And I'm thinking, no, you don't. You know, you've already got nothing to prove. But I got a feeling that after Mingus, when Joni's fans had, you know, there were some that said, yeah, Mingus is awesome, but basically most of her fans up to that point said, what the hell is this? He had kind of both an obligation and an opportunity to just start with a clean slate. And what are you going to do? Buck the trend or go with what's selling? You know, her income had probably dried up. So I understand why she rode the wave of new wave and, you know, did all the production decisions. And I get it. I was actually in that myself, but I don't think it's worn well.
Right.
But this discussion is actually making me realize, well, yeah, that song's pretty good actually, and oh yeah, that one's pretty good too. You know, I'm kind of coming around, but I don't think it hangs together well, like For the Roses or you know, any of those classic works. I think it's got some good moments, and there's something about the sound of it that's very pinched. Maybe it's just the CD version that I have, but it's very ugly sounding. It's very squashed and digital, flat sounding. It doesn't have any kind of pop to it, and so that bugs me because the actual tone of it and the depth of it has to work for me in an audio way too. We haven't discussed that yet, but does anybody else feel that too? Or maybe the vinyl is really good. I never had heard it.
Ruben,
I have I have a copy of the gold CD that was released to this, and also there was a 2-record set that you play at 45 RPM instead of the 33, and both of those sound better than the CD version does, the original CD version. They're, I don't know the technical terms, but they're more open and things are separated better. And I
does it
like
say Ruben?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that one as well.
And I agree with what you just said, Dave. I think this was a good sort of refresh, even if it doesn't hang together as well as some of her earlier stuff. Carly Simon put out an album a year or two before this too that I thought was a good refresh called
This one?
Come Upstairs. I love Come Upstairs. It's
Ruben, at the beginning, I talked about how Carly did it with Come Upstairs. And
Oh,
Linda,
yeah.
And Linda
Yeah.
did it with Mad Love.
Mm-hmm. I thought this one holds up better than other artists who kind of did the same thing around the same time, even if it doesn't measure up to past stuff.
I don't know, though. I don't think there's anything as good as Jesse on Wild Things Run Fast. I love that song from
Yeah.
Come Upstairs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess since it's a cover, did anyone cover the Joni's cover of?
Yes, there was one cover of Joni's cover, a UK band called Solex. And the reason you know that is because Joni had the one line, "You don't like going to parties to toot and talk all night long." That was not in the original Lieber Staller tune. And Solex added that lyric to their cover, which is kind of a bizarre cover, very, very clunky and machinery-like. So I would say Solex has the one cover of Joni's song, but there's like 50 covers of You're So Square. Of course, Elvis did it in 57 for the first time. That's who they wrote it for. Bobby V did it, Buddy Holly, CeeLo Green, Don McLean, Brian Ferry, Queen, a long list of artists who've done this song. So it's a great little rock and roll song, as Lieber and Staller always wrote.
You know what the original lyric was?
You know, like going to parties to sit and talk, something like that. Joni said toot and talk, which to Jahida's point is another cocaine reference.
Yeah, she's doing a toot with Christine
Doing a
McVie.
toot.
Sue, did you say what you think of this song? I'm curious.
I mean, I listened to it. I like it. I actually like the Elvis version better.
Okay.
But yeah. I mean, it's fun. But
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I went on an Elvis tear about a year ago. My brother got me all these Elvis albums. I just listened to. I was going crazy.
There's a great shitty restaurant that's like it has the carpet from the 70s, and there's an Elvis impersonator, and all the old people get up with like flag. You all need to come visit me in Tampa. We're going to Alpha Pasta and Prime to see the Elvis impersonator.
I'm already planning on it next time I go and visit my mom in Kissimmee, so we'll go.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So
I worked with not one but two Elvis impersonators.
Oh, I love it. Okay, the bass is back, and the next song, "You Dream Flat Tires."
This song is crazy, but I love it.
I love this song, but I prefer the Travelogue version.
Oh, I actually like the Travelogue version, I think.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
Bob?
Yeah, I do love this song. I put it on mini mixtape in the 80s for friends of mine. I think the bass riff is really, really good. I think the lyrics are good, right? I mean, she's alluding to a flat tire on a car and comparing it to a relationship that's gone sour, right? I mean, okay, my car had a flat tire and it's done. Our relationship had a flat tire, it had a fault, and it's also sidelined. It was a great song.
I like this one too.
A hymn and a prayer.
That's good.
Yeah.
I watched the video for this last week, and in the video that was released, somebody took the Lionel Richie part out and inserted her back into it with this crazy echo on it. Has anybody seen that lately? It's really good. Maybe it's the single version. I don't know.
Oh,
it's nice.
On YouTube?
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube.
Oh.
I never even knew that existed.
I didn't either till fairly recently.
Perhaps they'll be on the archives, volume 4, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, Lionel Richie's back again.
How did he even get in contact with her? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
of all like pairings, Lionel Richie just strikes me as being it's bizarre.
He was
Well, you
never
wanna
around
know?
any other album, right?
You
Go
want
ahead,
to
Bob.
know? I mean, the truth is, Joni Mitchell tanked with Mingus. Her tour was somewhat successful, but she wanted to get back to the public eye, so she pulled in artists, and she'll do this again in the 80s, who were popular to try and bring her popularity back up to speed. I mean, when I bought this record in the stores, there was a big gold circle on the record cover said featuring Lionel Richie.
Really?
Yeah. In 82, Lionel Richie was huge.
He
Had Dancing on the Ceiling. He had all these big hits.
He was as big as Michael Jackson at that time.
Yeah, sure.
I guess.
So Joni's like, I'm going to bring in Lionel Richie. I'm going to put his name on a sticker on the cover of my record so that I can tap in his popularity and people will buy my record because Lionel Richie's on it.
But didn't Lionel's solo career not really take off till like 84 with Can't Slow Down? Like in 82, he wasn't as big as he would turn out to be a couple years later, right?
I will say he was probably pretty big in 82.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I remember.
He was in the Commodores, right?
Yeah, he was in the Commodores.
Huge.
Huge.
They had huge hits too. But Lionel Richie's solo career, I think I'm remembering it like about 82. He was massive. And so was Phil Collins.
Right.
Oh, okay. So his solo career was launched in 82.
His first album, right?
Yeah.
And it had Truly on it.
Yep. And You Are and My Love. Okay.
Yeah.
So at Hall & Oates, Lionel Richie, Phil Collins, Michael Jackson, these were the people that owned the first half of the 80s.
Right.
And the Police, which this record's based on.
Yes, and the Police, except their last record was to come up, in 83.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, and in 81 was when Endless Love came out.
Oh, with Diana, right?
So that was freaking huge.
But yeah, Joni had a gold emblem on this vinyl featuring Lionel Richie.
So after this album came out, Michael McDonald was there. Pick me next. Pick me.
Yes.
So Endless Love was as you say, Jahida, that was Lionel Richie and Diana Ross, and the piano player was none other than Barnaby Finch, the Mutts of the Planet pianist.
Wow.
Oh.
He's got a gold record on his wall.
That's amazing.
Very nice.
Diana just came out with a new album 2 weeks ago.
I saw that. And
Was
so did
Lionel
Adam.
Richie on Geffen Records? Jahida, were you looking at discography? Was Lionel on Geffen?
He was on Motown.
On Motown.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was listening to the thing that Ruben posted.
Is it a lot? Is the single version a lot different of You Dream for That Tires? Or just the...
If I can play the clip, I don't know if you can hear it if I play it, but we'll try it.
Here, I'll pause it for a second. All right, so go to YouTube and check out the single edit of You Dream Flat Tires. It's different than the album version. That's the new thing I learned tonight, one of them. There's some good bass playing face in the video from Larry Klein. All right, do we have any other thoughts on this track here?
I've got one. Is this the track where she originally had Don Henley singing back vocal, and then she wiped him and replaced him with Lionel Richie, and he just had a couple words to say about that? Or was that a different song?
I thought that was Ladies Man.
Was it? Okay.
I could be wrong.
I do have something. I think this could have been a single. Was it?
No.
Could have been. Yeah.
Could have been.
It would have been a better first single than You're So Square, I think.
I totally agree with that.
Well, Bob, did anyone cover this one?
Yes, 6 covers. The first one coming from an Italian band called My Flexible Friends in 2001. And then the rest of the covers are all some aforementioned people who I've named who cover this pretty much the whole record.
Which is so interesting to me.
Find these people, man.
I know.
The dark web.
The dark web. 4chan.
Sue,
dark
Sue,
side.
lots of money, lots of time, and lots of money.
I know. Thank God
Well,
you're rich.
I would love to be able to get this one down on actual recording at some point, but it will technically be the more travelogue version because I feel like it suits my range better.
Awesome. Well, Sue, are you treating us to a version of Man to Man?
Yes, I am.
You want to do a little sound check first before we...
Yeah, that would be great. Should I go ahead? No demands, just pleasurable sensations, hand in hand. No far-reaching plans, no, hand in hand. Well, I keep on trying to understand, daylight bright, how come I keep moving from man to man to man? Give him my sweet love, tasting sweet love, real sweet love, woman to man. Sometimes it's easy, you drift with the empty gladness, like it all belongs. Sometimes it's slow down in sadness, like it's all gone so wrong. When I saw you standing there, I said to myself, ooh, now here's a place I could break down and care and give him my sweet love. Taste this sweet love, real sweet love, woman to man. Well, I don't like to lie, but I sure can get phony when I get scared. I stick my nose up in the air, stony, stony when I get scared. When I saw you standing there, I got scared. I thought, ooh, I hope he could care. Sure hope I can care. Hope we could really care and share. Woman to man, woman to man, to woman to man, to woman to man. 'Cause I keep moving man to man to man, to man to man. What am I looking for? Man to man to man, to man. A lot of great guys went through my door. Man to man to man, to man to man, to man to man, man to man to man. Woman to man.
That was awesome, Sue.
Sue.
Sue, that was really, really so good. I mean, that you opened up that song in a brand whole new way.
Yeah, that was never one of my favorites, to be honest with you. And
Really?
I totally heard it in a different way with your version.
I mean, it was so raw and honest and open. Damn, that was good.
It felt like a Joni Mitchell song.
Yeah.
No, I've always loved that song.
It has that synthesizer again in there.
Yeah.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go.
I was just gonna say that it was so weird because I was listening to it, and when she's singing the last part of it, there's this synthesizer that goes for like 2 minutes or something, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, that's not Wayne Shorter doing circular breathing, is it? Because that's what it sounded like to me, you know? I was like, and so I went on the liner notes and it wasn't Wayne, it was just a synthesizer. But, you know, I mean, I don't know. I always felt like it was, you know, just very intense the way that she, I mean, it's like her being totally confessional again, being honest about it.
With James Taylor on background vocals, by the way.
Yeah, imagine that.
No, wait a minute. Okay. James Taylor singing background vocals, Larry Klein is playing bass, and John Guerin is playing drums. Come on. Come on. Who does that?
All the boys are being faithful.
A lot of good guys come through my door.
Not all of them. That could have been a busy song.
That would have been a big long list, Michael Paz. You're right.
Don Elias is like, I'm going to sit this one out.
Yeah, Graham was pissed he wasn't there.
Yeah.
All my exes are on my track.
Didn't one of the record reviews mention that? I think one of the reviews actually pointed out what we just spoke of. I love it, though.
Woman has balls.
Yeah,
it's a great tune. It's so much fun, man. God, some of the when she says I don't like to lie, but I sure can be phony when I get scared. I mean, that's just raw Joni there. That's truth.
That's a great lyric.
She's telling the truth right there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
From this discussion, I'm realizing there definitely are some ballsy moments on this album. The cocaine lyric. That's a great lyric that was just pointed out. Yeah.
She's never not stuck her neck out, musically, lyrically, production-wise, anything. I mean, it's always been exactly what she wanted to do, with the one possible exception that we won't talk about tonight. We'll talk about it another night.
I guess I was just blinded by the hot dog with this album. Story of my life.
I also like, you can see that too, right? Where she's like, I stick my nose up in the air, stony when I get scared. And you can see that in Joni, you know what I mean? She comes across sometimes as very aloof and haughty, and it's one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, because vulnerability is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, at this point, she's been with lots and lots of men, right? No judgment, but she's had lots of relationships. By 1982.
Yeah, I mean, for being honest and being ballsy, I've definitely had a lot of relationships also, and it's the same thing. I mean, I think, another reason why this album is just so speaks to me, because again, part of when I was falling in love with Les, it was that I've been hurt so many times before. Let's not have this be just, another kind of thing. And so a lot of what she was talking about in here kind of felt parallel to how I felt.
I feel like this was another pre-Larry song.
Could be.
Definitely. Definitely. But I agree with what you just said, Jahida. All of us have had lots of relationships, but we're all not judged. Men certainly aren't judged that way.
Right.
Straight men, maybe gay men are judged differently. I watched something on TV today by that that journalist Lisa. She's on CNN. I can't call her name for some reason, but you know,
Not
it's
Lisa
just,
Ling.
huh?
Lisa Ling?
Lisa Ling. She did a story about the lavender papers, and it's horrific. You know how people were singled out because of their sexuality, that they were going to be threatening to the country, or threatening to our safety or stuff like that, and that's just right. And so, I mean, you've always heard of that, but Joni has always been crucified for the amount of relationships that what they did to her in Rolling Stone magazine, with the whole tree of people that she had at that point in her life.
It's still
Just not
happening.
fair.
Look at Taylor Swift.
Yeah, for sure.
We have not progressed. I mean,
No.
not at all.
No, we haven't. No, and racially speaking, I think we've taken a step backwards too. You know, it's awful. Who should decide who you can love, and when you can love, and how much you can love? I mean, that's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's just really ridiculous.
For who you are, my niece is now transitioning, and that's her parents have supported her. I mean, she or he started feeling like she was a he when she was like 3 or 4 years old.
Wow.
And she's just starting middle school now, and he decided. I mean, see how I get? I can't even do it. Changing his name, and
I mean,
it's just so cool in a way. It's like, I really feel like he doesn't have, like, it's still going to be hard, don't get me wrong, but at least it's not 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
Where it would never happen.
I used to go to a club. I used to run from my car to the front door because I was afraid I'd get shot between the car and the door. I grew up in Western New York, and I never made it from one class to another without getting beat up for years. So I still have a lot of trauma to work through and stuff. You just bury it because you become the survivor that's always strong and outspoken. But that how did we get on this? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
It's my fault. It's my fault because, like I said, yeah, it's my fault that I went down this dark hole. But the bottom line is, it's true, and it does, it should. It bothers me that people that I love don't have the same feeling that I do about inclusiveness of everybody. Right. I just, and I think it's important that we continue to vocalize that to people, to our children, to our students, and everybody else. I just don't think it's right to.
An angry man is just an angry man, but we know what a woman is, right?
Yeah.
And Jeremy, on behalf of this group, I'm sorry for what happened to you.
That's how I ended up here, though, right? So everything's how it's supposed to be.
Well, I'm not to downplay what you guys have said at all. I mean, I obviously understand, another, I guess, much maligned kind of facet to a relationship, though. I mean, my age gap with Les. People look at us, and if they don't think I'm his daughter, which also cracks me up because I'm Latina and he's like the whitest man on the planet. But
thank God you said that.
But also just the fact that, he's, they think, oh, she must be, a gold digger or something, which my response is always, joke's on you, he has no money.
Where's the gold, baby?
But that's just it, and it sucks. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like very often, I have to kind of plead my case for why I'm with this man that's 22 years older than me. You know what I mean? And I feel like that same thing, even, again, to bring it back, I don't like Taylor Swift, but I commiserate with her in some things, you know? And I feel like that same thing happened to her when she started dating Tom Hiddleston. They were like, why is he dating her? She's young. And it's like, because she likes him. because he's freaking Tom Hiddleston. You know what I mean? Like, why? Who cares? Why are we so worried about what other people are doing?
These people
And
on
that's what
Facebook
it basically comes down to. Mind your own freaking
fucking business.
Well, yeah, I was trying to church it up, but mind your own fucking business.
Mind your own motherfucking business.
Let people love who they want to love. You know what I mean? Like, come on, you know. And that's the same thing. I mean, with Joni, people were saying that shit about her because she was, you know, dating Larry Quinn, who was younger, right? And it's just like, who fucking cares? Let her be in love with whoever she wants, and whoever wants to love her back, right? Like,
yeah. I gotta say one thing, then we'll go to Bob. I know we're down a rabbit hole a little bit, but I think this is the important things that music brings up about society and culture and stuff. But on Facebook, there's these people talking like, if I would have known, had a 17-year-old that dated a 19-year-old preying on them, I'm like, I've dated like younger, like it's not always a bad, like who's the judge? I felt like such a dirty old man because I do like some younger guys, you know what I mean? Late 20s, mid 20s, but but who's the judge? You know, and 40s, 50s also. But I don't know. How do you bring up a great point that why can't people just fucking love?
Exactly.
Madonna's man is like 30 years younger than her. Get it, Madonna?
that bitch is so flexible. Like, why not?
As Sophie Tucker says, 20 goes into 80 a hell of a lot more than 80 goes into 20.
All right, Bob.
I ripped off Bette Midler there.
All right. Sorry. Getting back to the topic.
Yeah, Bob, you're in charge of keeping us on track. You're good.
No, it should be your job.
Okay, I'll do it.
Man to Man, two covers who we've referenced before, the Peter Herbert record and the Fabio Ranza record. The only two folks to cover the song. But you know what, Sue? Totally. I always loved this record, loved this song. But Sue's rendition, I mean, totally made the song brand new to me.
It was a game changer. That was a game changer.
Really great. Really great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, all three performances tonight were just wonderful. All right. We are now about to meet some gay boys with their pants so tight underneath the street light. So, how do you all feel about this song?
I love this one. I always have. 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. We have a thumbs down. Anybody else? We have. Oh, this is something we started doing on the Prince podcast. For each song, we do thumbs up or down with everybody. So maybe we should bring that into the next Joni one just for fun. All right, so let's go with the thumbs down first, and we'll end on a positive note. I think I'm kind of in the middle. Don't love, don't hate. Bob, why do you give it a thumbs down?
Just never felt the music or the lyrics on this song. And I think the gay boys with the pants so tight line was a big turnoff because I think it's like a not a good reference.
A little stereotypical, maybe.
Stereotypical, yeah. So, yeah, I love the record, and I love the music. If I could tune out the lyrics, but not my favorite song on this record. It's a negative for me.
I didn't like the rolling for a living.
Doesn't fit very well. I agree.
I will agree that the lyrics are, you know, and the I love ya, you know, like, but I kind of like the upbeat. I like the song itself. I like the actual feel of the song, but yeah, the lyrics are not her best. I mean, it's just, I think overall I like it because it's happy, it's upbeat, it's kind of silly, you know.
I like all the I swears. I swear on a billion yellow and TV blue windows. I swear on the Beatbox Boys chasing the blackbird. All those, I think those lines are all great.
Lincoln Plains Above. That's kind of romantic. Jim.
I think that one, yeah, I was just going to talk about Blinking Planes Above. I do. This is Joni out on the street at night, which is almost a throwback to coming up from the subway in New York, right? And it prefigures where she's talking about the blue lights on the runway later on, too. It's, she's a night owl through and through. And so for me, I mean, at the beginning of the song, she's just saying, okay, I'm just going to talk about me. I couldn't be happier, and for me, it's like, well, she's kind of like broken through here, and as an artist, she needs to do new things and all that kind of thing. And so this is totally new for her to just say, here I am, and I'm happy. It's like the unvarnished, unguarded Joni. She's just free at this moment. And then she's so free that later on she just starts name checking things as if she's, saying, what's that kid's game? I Spy.
Mhm.
I spy, the blinking planes above. I do. I spy this. I spy that. It's just she's free at this moment. And it is what it is. It's okay with me.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's goes back to the joyfulness and the sheer abandon of wherever she was in her life, and it's just a rockin' good time. I enjoy this song a lot. Lyrically, it's nothing, earth-shattering for Joni, obviously, but I do like this record.
I do think if she would have continued doing another Mingus, I think it would. I think it was good for her to do something different. I think it's good to take risks, and not all of them work. So I think, this engaged me as a listener. Like, okay, this might not be my favorite, but it's different and it's something new. Bob.
Well, I mean, you've got Solid Love, right? I mean, on this record, you have Solid Love. This song is superfluous because Solid Love already says, yes, I do. I love you. And so this song doesn't bring anything to the party for me.
I like it better than Solid Love, though. If I had to pick, I'd pick this one over Solid Love.
Me too.
I'd pick Chinese Cafe.
I mean,
Yeah, we all would.
those two, yeah. Did anybody bring a copy of the tour book from this album? This album and tour?
I have a
Yeah,
copy
Chris
of it.
had one, but he's not on with us anymore.
There was an interesting quote in there where she said this was the first set of songs after the last song cycle had ended, and that one had, she said, started with, it was either For the Roses or Court and Spark, and ended with Mingus. And
Okay.
it sort of framed this like this is a whole new beginning and a whole new sound and a whole new haircut and a whole new everything.
So it's not a new chapter; it's a new book.
That's which I thought was interesting that she put it in the tour program, because it was clearly a message to everybody, like, listen to this. This is my new thing.
Where do you think this book ended?
I think this book took a weird left turn on the next album, actually. The next record was so different, and then the one after that was so different, and she didn't really get back to this until Night Ride Home, really, 10 years later.
Which Jim just brought up a lyric from Night Ride Home, just a couple months preview. I love every song on that album.
Me too. I like the ones in between too. Yeah. But I think I said the last time, it would have been really interesting. I don't wish that she had done something different, but it would have been interesting to see where she went next after Night Ride Home, if she hadn't fallen into that Fairlight trap and with Thomas Dolby. And I love Dog Eat Dog, I really do, but I feel like it wasn't a continuation on what came before.
All right. So do we have any other thoughts on Underneath the Streetlight? Bob,
I guess I'm a little bit like you. I'm like in the middle with it.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to it the other day, and I think that everybody's right that the lyrics are a little wonky. There's this one section that I couldn't even really figure out what she was saying. It had something to do with trucks and rolling, and and I wasn't really sure how that fit in the song.
Yeah, that's the one you were just talking about, Jeremy, where she says, all night the trucks roll up to the tunnel toll underneath the streetlight. They come rolling, rolling, rolling for a living underneath the streetlight. It works better on the other verses. Madman kicking over garbage cans and then dancing, really rock and rolling. I don't know. For some reason, that whole truck.
Yeah, it just, I mean, because
Yeah.
I think I didn't understand that she was saying toll booths or whatever like that.
Oh.
So I couldn't get the real picture of what she was trying to say. But that was just me. I was like,
So what city do you think the streetlight is in? Is she in New York City?
I felt like
I
she was
think
in
so.
LA, but maybe
In LA?
maybe New York.
All right, Bob, did anyone cover this one?
Is Bob frozen?
I think he is.
Bob's frozen.
Bob's definitely frozen unless he's really good.
He's giving us a stink eye.
Incredibly still.
Had too many scouts.
He's like, get back on track.
He took a screenshot of
But by the
himself.
way, I think of this definitely as New York. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking like when she says gaming with the pants so tight, I don't know why, but I imagine like Studio 54, you know?
And you know what? In 82, there wouldn't be gay boys out on the street with their pants tight in a small town because they would have gotten their ass kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
be
think
honest.
tunnel toll is New York. I don't think there are any tunnel tolls in LA. Are there?
No, probably not. Mm-mm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. Well, I'm sure Bob will come back, right?
Hope so.
We need to know how many people.
All right, so Bob has checked out for the evening. This is Joni Mitchell, Wild Things Run Fast Survivor, who can make it to the end of the album. Sometimes I can't. Sue, and Bob has given you the information. Never replaced, but gently replicated.
Right. Well, Jahide, right, Underneath the Streetlight had 0 covers, and there were 10 covers for Love.
Okay.
And if you want to find out what they are, you can go to jonimitchell.com, undercover tab, and there's all of Bob's covers at jonimitchell.com.
And Bob, thanks for all the work you do and for doing the podcast. I love what everyone brings to this. This is such a highlight of the month. Like, I just love you all. You're the best.
Oh, I love you too.
All right, so Paz, before we talk about the last song, are you going to give us a special rendition?
Love to. This is definitely, I guess my second favorite or my equal favorite to Chinese Cafe. And this one, Freda really liked this song a lot, and she used to sing it a lot when we were riding around. And I never attempted to play it until much later, and it's when I love playing it. So here we go. Although I speak in tongue of men and angels, I'm just sounding brass and tinkling cymbal without love. Love suffers long, love is kind, enduring all things, hoping all things. Love has no evil in mind. If I had the gift of prophecy and all knowledge and the faith to move the mountains, even if I understood all of the mysteries, if I didn't have love, I'd be nothing. Love never looks for love. Love's not puffed up or angry or so touchy. Because it rejoices in the truth, not in iniquity. Love sees like a child sees. As a child, I spoke as a child. I thought and I understood as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things and began to see through a glass darkly. As a child, I saw it face to face. Now I only know it in part. Fractions in me of faith and hope and love, of these great three, love's the greatest beauty. Love, love, love.
Awesome.
Gorgeous, Paz. Beautiful.
See, that was another song that I never loved on the album, but hearing that version, I understand the Joni Mitchell song of it. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So this song was written to go with a movie, correct? A little mini movie?
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
But it's not very great, right?
No.
This is the Bob Dylan thing?
No, it was
No.
this little Canadian movie that was done. It was like vignettes from a couple of women directors. It's called the movie's called Love, and Joni had a segment in it, which was really weird.
Is it anywhere you can see or no?
Actually, it's on. I have it in Dropbox somewhere. I could send it to you.
It's not on YouTube?
It used to be on YouTube. Yeah.
Yes,
I'd like to see it too, please, Sue.
Yeah, I'll send you all a link to the Dropbox that I have.
Doesn't Art Nouveau make an appearance in this film?
Yeah.
Or-
Yep.
He's back. He's back.
I can't remember. I think either Bob or Les sent it to me. I can't remember.
Oh, Les probably has it in his like 500 million thousand hard
Oh
drive.
yeah, he definitely has it. What are you kidding? Yeah.
So what do you all think of the song? Like I said, it was never one of my favorites. I just felt like it kind of meandered, and I just could never sink my claws into it. But Paz, your version kind of it's gave me an entryway into the song a little bit more.
Well, you know, I sing it pretty much the same way she does, except, you know, with my low register voice, you know, to me, I think Marion Russell made a comment when I first met her that, you know, hearing a man sing it with low register as opposed to trying to sound like in her register or sing it in a higher key, you know, it definitely feels different. But I tell you, where I got this connection with the song, I think, is through the church, because, you know, from Corinthians, I've, you know, attended several funerals where, you know, these verses have been, you know, been read aloud in church by people. And, you know, the sentiment and everything has always just struck me. And like I said, when we first started dating and Fred and I were new and, you know, we listened to this record, I mean, this was, you know, a great way to close out the record, you know, and always did appeal to me, you know, more than the other ones. Underneath the Street Lamp and Shiny, you know, all those other songs that they really had to grow on me more because, they weren't the tragic stuff that Joni always does. But I think, that's why I like the album a lot, because it is happy. And I appreciate that she was happy, and enjoying her new relationship.
So I'm kind of tired. So this is a dumb question. We'll just move right on for it. But is the only way to portray happiness is through frivolousness? You know what I mean? Like,
That's a really good point.
That's pretty funny.
Like, because I feel like I think of, I don't know. I think there's got to. That's why I just like some of the songs on this album. I feel like there's just a more profound way to portray happiness than.
Oh, wow. Okay. First of all, I'm glad to have this album, because it's, as I say, it's her experiment, and, she's welcome to it.
Right.
Okay. She owes me nothing, right?
Sure.
But if you want to talk about happiness, I would throw up Sting's song "Field of Gold." Fields of Gold.
Fields of Gold.
I mean, that one really hits you in the solar plexus, and you don't feel that it's, sappy or sentimental. It's just like straight gratitude that she's in his life.
Have you ever heard what he said about Eva Cassidy singing that song?
Oh, she was amazing.
He said.
No, I haven't heard what he said.
Well, he said, oftentimes you hear people do covers of your songs and you're just like, yeah, that's nice, and you're just like, meh. He said, but once in a while you get somebody like Eva Cassidy. He says that song is no longer mine.
Mm-hmm.
I took it and it is now hers.
So I'm trying to think of songs about happiness and love that aren't on the hot dog darling level. And the first thing that comes to my mind.
You've been sitting on that hot dog for a long time there tonight.
I wish I was.
How about Love and Happiness by Al Green?
Yeah.
That's a happy song.
The first thing that comes to my mind is Tina Marie, It Must Be Magic, or Tina Marie 365. Like, she just wrote some beautifully complex songs about just happiness.
Yeah.
What about Something? If we're talking about Paul, Something?
Right.
That's George's song. That's a George Harrison
We're
song.
talking about the Beatles. So
Yeah.
Something, or, And I Love Her.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my problem with this album. It's not that Joni's happy. I just think she could have done better with it.
Hey, if you're with a younger person, she was giddy.
Yeah.
I tell you one thing, for me personally, when I listen to music, I gravitate to sadder, more tragic music, or definitely ballads more than anything.
I do.
And I know that I drive my wife crazy when we're riding around in the car and I'm playing Patty Griffin and then, For the Roses and Hejira and all these songs that, are deep and mean something to me, but they make me happy to hear them. But, she never complains when I put on this record, she loves this record. So it's weird, but yeah, I get your point. And that's a good observation, because there are a lot of good, happy love songs out there that aren't giddy and hot dog darling.
I just feel like Euphoria can be just as complex as tragedy in a different way. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm tired.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Well, with Madonna too. I know you're a Madonna fan. Cherish.
Ruben, you gotta listen, because I feel like we brought up a few things when you were gone. Like, there's a few things you're gonna be like, oh, because I brought up Cherish earlier in this podcast. I'm like, to me, that song is like heaven. And even Dear Jessie from Like a Prayer, like,
yeah.
And that's not shallow shit. Like, that's some deep shit.
Yeah.
Cherish is like a pop song, but like, I don't know. I love it.
But it's a little less self-conscious than these, maybe. I don't know. I don't mean that it sound like a criticism of this, but
there's a little vulnerability, because even the line, I was never satisfied with casual encounters. I can't find the need for two hearts that, like, I don't know. I've been there.
So it's funny that you say that, Paz, because in the New York Times, September 20th, 2013, there was an article called "Why We Like Sad Music." Somebody did a whole.
I read that. So, it's long, right?
Yeah. So
Wow.
I have it because what I did was I used to have in my class, we would have something called SSRW, which is silent sustained reading and writing. And so I would do music articles and have them, parcel it out and stuff. And so this was one of them because as humans, we gravitate towards this sad music. And so, and the reason why that we all, obviously gets really into it, but the idea is the main reason why humans like sad music is because it helps them not feel alone.
Okay.
Because they finally feel that there is a connection on a human level to someone else, and especially the person who is singing and writing the piece. So, yeah, I mean, it's a thing, happy pop music, like, I love you kind of stuff. Yeah. Hot dog, may not be stuff that grabs us, but certainly it's, it has its place, I think. I mean, especially when we think about the fact that there are songs that have more of a mature kind of, way of handling the reality of love, without it being that duality like we've been talking about, where it's like, okay, I'm really happy, but let's also talk about the bad parts of what happens when you fall in love, like just straight up love, and yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's, it also, as you can see from just even Paz and I, it has its place because it was the soundtrack of our love.
Which I love. I love that love.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're going to get me crying. Something you said that touches me so much is my buddy, Meg Griffin, reviewed an album that I just co-produced called Vessels by an artist by the name of Joe Tullis. And her first line was, "I just love an album that makes me feel less alone in the world." And I just love that, what she says about that. And it's not me, it's Joe's music, and Joe's no longer with us. This is a posthumous release that we've done. And so
he was an awesome dude.
Huh?
He was an awesome dude.
He was. I mean, he played Paz Fest 4, and he was, he had just beaten colon cancer at the time, and he came and did a cover of The Priest.
Oh, wow.
He did it like, I mean, think, what is this, Jack White? What's the name of his, the White Stripes?
White Stripes.
So it might have been kind of like White Stripes or maybe Flaming Lips or something like that. I mean, it was just awesome. It was incredible. And of course, we recorded it and videotaped it, and both are lost because of a hard drive. So
he was a fucking rock star about it, for sure.
It's here. Yeah. Yeah, that was an amazing. I wish all of you could have been. That was probably the best one that I ever did. It was just a wonderful 5.5 hours of music. So,
and now just to play devil's advocate with myself, maybe Joni Mitchell realized that she was writing a different kind of song, and she just wanted the opportunity to write a different kind of song. Just because she wrote Amelia doesn't mean she can't write a solid love. And so I'm playing devil's advocate for myself. Why does everything always have to be literature? Jim.
Right. Beatle Paul said, people ask me why I wrote a song for a James Bond movie. And because I hadn't done one before. It's like, yeah, it's a challenge. And so let's get on it. There's a cool music movie, If You Young People. Jahida, I'm looking at you.
And Jeremy. I'm just
I'm going to be 42 in 5 days, so.
Yeah, it's impossible. You're a fucking liar. Anyway, there's a movie called High Fidelity.
Oh, I love that movie.
Oh, me too, right?
Yeah, I saw that movie.
And at the very beginning, he says, am I depressed because I listen to pop music? Or do I listen to pop music because I'm depressed?
Okay.
John Cusack, by the way, knows I exist, and that's one of my favorite things ever. No lie, Dobbler was my password for the longest time for everything because I grew up in love with John Cusack.
Well, do we have any other thoughts on the song Love?
He's and on that note.
I love that. This is the perfect way to close this very interesting chapter of Joni Mitchell's life and career. And it keeps going back to what Chris says about the pictures of her smiling. That's not some fake shit. That smile is just as real as her deepest lyrics on Hajira, I feel like. It's just as real.
I'm also really glad she doesn't have the perm in this one.
Although that feather from the Refuge of the Road tour, I don't know.
Oh, the perm's coming back, though.
There's another perm just around the corner, but it's a different kind of perm.
Thank you for hosting this, Jeremy. It's awesome as always.
This is so much fun.
Highlight for me too.
So let's go around the circle. We're gonna rate Wild Things Run Fast on a scale of 1 to 10, or as we say in our Madonna podcast, on a scale of Madam X to 10. How would you? Because it was so bad. Ruben, are you a fan of Madam X?
I loved Madam X.
Oh, you have to be in the Madam X podcast then, because we need some heat in there. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, Wild Things Run Fast. 10 is classic. 1 is garbage. We're gonna start with Paz up in the upper left-hand corner.
I'm right here in the middle. No, I'd have to give it a 10 because I just love it. I just love this album, and it's a part of my life. Now, is it? Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a little bit of a loaded. If I were going to rate it for real, okay, maybe an 8. But for me, it's an important album in my life, and I think in her life, and as appreciating her as an artist, I'm with her. I was just as happy as she was at that time, and 10 from me.
Wow. All right, Shahida, you're next.
Well, I mean, if we're going to say the same thing, in terms of, because of what it means to me personally, then yeah, I would say the same. But I mean, if I'm going to give it the real rating, especially because You're So Square is so fucking horrid, then I'm sorry, but it is. I hear it and I'm like, nah.
You're so square.
So I'm gonna give it a 7. Actually, You're So Square made it really go real down, and I also because I think lyrically on some of these were not strong for her. So yeah,
we should have gotten Bob's rating too while he was still in the radius. Oh well. Ruben,
I would actually agree with Michael. I think this to me is a 10. This is one of my top 2 favorite Joni albums, and it is important in my life. This is one that I have carried with me more than a lot of the other ones for many, many years. And even though the songs may not be as strong as some of the other ones, the mood and the intent, I think, are a 10 out of 10 for me. So yeah.
All right, up next is Jim.
Okay, for me, the 10s are Zenyatta Madada, and Abbey Road, Ram, Blue, For the Roses, and so I have to give this an 8.
All right, Sue.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8 too. Although I want to give it a 9. I changed my mind right there because some of these songs are really important to me, and some of them I don't. I mean, they're just blah, So I'm gonna have to give it a 9.
All right, and I give it a 5.
Oh, Jeremy.
A 5, maybe a 6.
So difficult.
Dang.
This is hard.
Were you ever on American Bandstand? Were you one of those guys that said, well, I give it like a 75. I can dance to it, but it really doesn't say anything to me.
I give this a 5, but I give Doggy Dog like a 9 or 10.
Oh my God. Oh, there's going to be blood in the streets next month. I can't wait. Can we push it up?
I'm getting my perm wig ready for this.
Right now. Now.
I will say, thinking about "You're So Square," just the lyrics, I think I just don't like the vibe of the song, like the old school kind of thing. I just don't like it. But thinking about the lyrics, I'm like, well, I mean, it kind of, again, this also goes in with the whole idea of, falling in love with Les, who I love him, but he's kind of square,
Okay, let's do the checklist. Does he like greasy diners? Check. No.
He loves greasy diners, actually.
Me too.
He loves greasy. We that's something we agree on. But yeah, he doesn't want to go out. You know what I mean? He doesn't want to go out and party. He wants to stay at home and he didn't even want to hold hands with me. He just wants to sit there and watch Wellington Paranormal with me. So yeah, I kind of, but I love it. You know what I mean? So I guess in a way, even You're So Square can make its little, plea for me to like it. I just
all right. I give it a 6. I put it up.
I have convinced
a little bit.
I made that one point, huh?
Listen, I'm gonna give the 4 reasons why I give it a 6. The whisper chorus in Fire and Ice. The last echoey guitar in Wild Things Run Fast.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you run like that echo? I'm like, oh. The gay boys with their pants tight.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the hot dog.
Well, she was sitting on that hot dog and she liked it.
Oh!
Jeremy, let me ask you something.
Like the Klein dog, please. No.
So, in the song "Man from Mars," I don't want to jump ahead because that's so far down the road. But in the song "Man from Mars," she says, "One big boo-hoo."
Oh,
You
yes.
hate that lyric too? You hate that lyric?
We will find out. And
stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe and like me. And
Patreon,
right.
Paz, that's a terrible lyric.
Well, I love it.
You love it?
I
love it. Yeah,
I like the
because
song, though. I like the song "Man from Mars."
here's one of the greatest lyricists in the world writing a song about a fucking cat. And so, hello. I mean, she's so emotionally attached to her cat. I mean, she's supposed to come up with some, very deep metaphor for crying or for whatever. I mean, it was great. One big boo-hoo. I fucking loved it.
I love that it's not even boo-hoo. It's like in her Canadian accent, just like boo-hoo.
Hey, maybe.
Oh, God.
I mean, she did rhyme moon and June, so there you go.
And since we're on the topic, I know this is months ahead, but
she's a crummy writer.
With "Man from Mars," she's like, I was going for a "For the Roses" sound. Isn't that what she said in the interviews? That someone commissioned her to write that song for a movie, and they wanted something that sounded like "For the Roses." I don't think we had "Boo-hoo" on "For the Roses."
No, we definitely didn't.
No.
But I do love that song, and I love "Taming the Tiger." So, I wish we were all in driving distance of a greasy diner. We could all just meet for a cup of coffee right now.
I grew up in New Jersey. Greasy diners are my thing.
We'd have some scrapple.
Waffle House, baby. You have Waffle Houses down there in Tampa, don't you?
I have one within 5 minutes. Whenever I want to quit my job, I just go sit in the Waffle House parking lot. I'm like, this is my future.
I don't think Waffle House is going to survive the pandemic. I was over there last Saturday night, and they were closed on a Saturday night.
Oh, no.
Serious.
We've had several close in the New Orleans area, but there's still quite a few. So yeah, I've got one 10 minutes from my house. So
We have the state diner in Ithaca for Joni Fest.
Oh, yeah. I don't think anything closed in Florida during the pandemic because the governor wouldn't let it. Okay, so shall we meet next month with Michael McDonald,
Oh yeah.
Thomas Dolby?
That's my impression of Michael McDonald.
on my pillow.
Whoever does the best Michael McDonald impression next month wins the Phonogenics Gold Star. All right. Well, I will see you all in December. I rate hanging out with you guys a 10 out of 10.
Aw.
Wait, can you stop recording for a second?
Yeah. All right. Patreon, YouTube, subscribe. Joni Mitchell. We'll see you next month.